Cinemoddities, late night movies with Rob and Zach. This is a podcast about cinematic oddities, where we discuss any media that is too bizarre, abnormal, or off-kilter for contemporary audiences. Occasionally these projects gel. Most times they crash hard into the realm of obscurity. Join us as we delve into the cult classics swamp. I'm Zach.
And the time is now. I'm Krista now. And we are here live in Malibu with my guests today, Shoshana Cox, Sheena G, and Dina Storm. Unfortunately, Dina Storm has a little problem with her vocal cords and won't be speaking for it all at any time during this conversation. But Shoshana Cox, would you like to introduce yourself? That's you, Ben.
Hi, I'm Shoshana Cox.
Just so you know, you're the one that says the, what if a woman has sex on a plane and then flies over the international date line, the morning after pill becomes the morning before pill. So that's you, Ben. Justin, you're Sheena G, who's the one who says the Supreme Court are a bunch of supreme shitheads.
Was she the liberal? The last remaining Democrat, or what?
I think they're all liberal.
Doesn't she keep saying, like, am I right the whole time during
that? So yes, okay. There is so much to talk about in this episode, and I think where I want to start, of course, is where is Zach? And very, very thankfully, of course, he's at the restaurant, but he's not doing something that has been established at the restaurant before. He is doing something there that relates to the movie we're discussing today. He is out spreading the word, the good word, that teen horniness is not a crime.
Teen horniness is not a crime. Open your heart and your mind. Horniness is on the rise. Look inside and you will find. Horniness is not a crime. Open your heart and your mind.
Cause the numbers don't lie. Observe the nerds, you shut up, call them by. Yeah.
So he's making sure everybody in the restaurant is aware of that fact. With that out of the way, I have one last bit before we talk about this actual movie, but I think the only way to get there is to say that this is our final episode of the Rock Sets Shit Straight series. Ben, we did it! It was only 3 episodes, but we did it.
Woo!
And, of course, as everybody knows, Ben is the creator of this series. Rob gave him control in that he got to talk about 2 movies out of the 3, and then Rob said, we're going to do this series, but we're going to talk about Southland Tales, because The Rock is in it, and I've always wanted to talk about this movie. Before we get into Southland Tales, I have to throw it back to the start of this series. Ben, do you remember when we first began in our Walking Tall discussion how we talked about The Rock's career, and we talked about that every generation needs a muscle-bound person in their movies? Does this ring a bell to you?
Yeah.
So, of course, you know, I think Arnold Schwarzenegger passed the torch to The Rock. And now, kind of in 2020, the late 2010s, we've been looking for, well, who is going to take The Rock's place? Of course, The Rock's not going to disappear, but who is our next muscle-bound person? And I was the one in our Walking Tall episode that said, for some reason, the cultural media wants us to think the next big muscle-bound dude is going to be Dave Bautista. And I know, Ben, we had some discrepancy on this. I think you mentioned Chris Hemsworth and that type of thing. But I wanted to bring this up because I actually read an article earlier today from CheatSheet.com, which is a showbiz website, which details an interview with Dave Bautista. And in this interview, he talks about being an actor, being a kind of going from wrestling into the movie realm as this big muscle-bound person. And I was like, oh, wow, this is great. This is exactly what Ben and I were talking about. He goes on to say some things that I think we will all appreciate. The 3 of us here, of course, Shoshana Cox and Dina and Sheena G, but our audience will as well if they've listened to our Walking Tall discussion. There are 2 quotes I want to read from Dave Bautista. Here's the first one. Do not compare me to The Rock or John Cena. Everyone does it. Those guys are wrestlers who became movie stars. I'm something else. I was a wrestler, now I'm an actor. So shots fired right off the bat that he just as I said in the Walking Tall episode, Dave Bautista, he's not a movie star. He's an actor. And remember, Ben, how I talked about The Rock
That shit makes no sense.
Remember, Ben, how I said that there's a difference between screen presence and actor?
Yeah.
Okay, so Justin's weighed in. Sheena has weighed in.
I think I have to dissent here because I think in Southland Tales, The Rock proves that he is an actor.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I agree.
I will take that, Ben. We might be jumping the gun into this actual movie, but this is the first thing I've ever seen that makes me think The Rock actually is an actor. So I'm with you there.
Have you seen Skyscraper or Snitch?
No, not Snitch. I've seen some of Skyscraper, and I've seen San Andreas, the one where he flies the helicopter sideways into the chasm.
So, like, I don't think that you can judge his ability to act based on movies like San Andreas or Rampage.
Okay.
But I think that if you look at like Snitch or Skyscraper, you might feel a little differently. Like in Skyscraper, he is not muscle-bound man of the world. He's like gimpy, used to do something muscly. Now I'm a security guy.
Yeah,
and
isn't he missing a leg or something in Skyscraper?
I don't think he's missing a leg. I think his leg is just injured. And
okay, gotcha.
Yeah, walking around on it.
So the second quote I want to read from Dave Bautista, because I think it relates to exactly what we're discussing. And we can do a little aside at the start of this. I'm going to try and put off the absolute barrage of hate that I'm going to try and defend from the other two hosts on this episode for Southland Tales. But he goes on, in the same interview, Dave Bautista says, "The Rock was, in a way, a movie star before he was even a movie star. There is something about him that's really special. I'd never take that away from him. Would I consider him a great actor? Fuck no." End quote. So Dave Bautista, because he's been in one fucking Denis Villeneuve movie for 3 minutes, Blade Runner 2049, he thinks he's hot shit these days. And I'm going to say it right now, Dave Bautista, hey, you were in 2 terrible movies that made you famous. Guardians of the Galaxy 1, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. You're the worst character in them, on par with every character in them. You're in that stupid Amazon little kid spy movie. Don't tell me that you're a fine, refined actor these days. So, okay, I guess I'll throw it over
Rob,
then.
You better be careful. You better get your ass kicked.
If my job was actually like being an actor, or I worked in the movie industry, I would then probably have to pull some punches. But I find it hard pressed for a university or a school to ever be like, "We don't want you to teach here. You said negative things about women in movies and men in movies. Everybody
or
in
Dave
movies."
Bautista. So I think I want to just go out here and say that for one, I'm a little disappointed in myself for having missed that our muscle-bound man on the screen to replace The Rock is actually going to be Henry Cavill.
He doesn't only have the muscle bound; he has the nerd aspect more recently.
He's got the nerd aspect. He's definitely got the muscle bound. He's inspiring. He's uplifting. If you watch his workout videos leading up to The Witcher, he's very much like, you can do this, but you should do it smart.
Okay.
And so I think if anybody's going to take over that role of just being muscle bound, but also really relatable in a way that doesn't make any sense, it's going to be Henry Cavill. And I think in terms of Dave Bautista thinking he's an actor, coming up with that one line in Guardians of the Galaxy where he said something like, "Why is Gamora?" Like, that doesn't make you an actor. And Henry
more
Cavill,
than 3 words.
I think that Henry Cavill and Chris Hemsworth both beat the shit out of him in terms of acting. Even Chris Pratt does. Like, he's not even the best actor in those Guardians movies, which, as Rob has indicated his level of hate for them, I don't hate them like he does. I actually kind of like them, but I don't think that he stands out in any way. Other than his character was written funny.
Yeah, he's the comic relief of those movies, even though every character is the comic relief except for the villain. But yeah, that's a discussion for another time. The travesty that is the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise, as well as the first musical number of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which should be classified as a war crime. But we're not talking about that today. I guess I want to throw it over to you, Justin, since this is your first appearance on the series, which, if you missed it, just let me reiterate, this series is called The Rock Set Shit Straight. And it's movies where The Rock sets shit straight. Do you have any overall thoughts on The Rock as a person, as an actor, or anything like that you want to chime in with? Do you know who The Rock is? Dwayne Johnson?
Oh, Dwayne Johnson's The Rock.
You know, I always thought that Dwayne looked like The Rock. Is that?
Yeah.
Well, I know that Justin, in all honesty, that you are aware of The Rock because we have talked about the People's Elbow before.
Right? That's right. Shit, I grew up with The Rock. Did The Rock look a little small in this movie to you guys? Like, I feel like he's a lot more jacked now than when he was in this movie.
Oh, definitely he's gotten bigger over time.
Yeah, he's massive.
He's not any smaller in this movie than he was in Walking Tall or The Rundown, though. He's actually more cut in this movie than he is in Walking Tall. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think we discussed, Ben, on our Rundown episode that he looked bigger, but we kind of concluded that it was a lot of camera magic and the angles they shot him from to make him more imposing than the rest of the people in that film. Even though the rest of the people in that film are Rosario Dawson, Christopher Walken, and Sean William Scott, who hold no candle
Very
to
imposing
him.
Actors. Yeah, I didn't realize you were such a expert on The Rock, Ben. What do you think about him in Ballers? Do you think that's a good show? You think he's good in it? I've never seen it.
I've also never seen it. I'm not an expert on The Rock. I just was about 15 when these movies came out.
This is awesome that we've come full circle, because when Ben and I started this series, I was like, so Ben, you love The Rock. You live for The Rock. You like his movies. And Ben was like, no. And now Justin's saying the same thing. This is great.
Yeah, no, I just, in 2004, 2005, when these movies were coming out and catching some attention, with the exception of the one we're talking about today, because it didn't come out till 2006, I think. I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
I used to box in the front yard with my friends.
Nice.
We were adrenaline-addled white teenagers. So, which means that I love Samoans and also Samoas. And so here we are.
Okay.
All I've got to say on the matter, I don't think these guys hold up to Schwarzenegger. Maybe it's just because, Schwarzenegger, Jean-Claude Van Damme. I feel like it's really hard to hold a lighter up to them. I mean, I was probably young, so they just stick as like the classic muscle-bound action actors. And I think The Rock is pretty good. I don't love him. I don't hate him. Same thing for the rest on the list. But I don't know, man. I miss Arnold.
So for one, I have to address the fact that you said hold a lighter. I've only ever heard hold a candle. So that's
hold a candle.
That's fine.
I've got a way of messing up expressions.
I think that's the new one now. We're past the age of candles. We have lighters.
I've heard hold a lantern as well. I think that's the British version of it, though.
That actually might just be how the British people say candles.
Fair.
Actually, no, I think they call flashlights torches. So they got some weird shit going on.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
But your statement about Jean-Claude Van Damme makes me want to remind you that the Street Fighter movie exists.
Oh, God, yes.
I didn't see that.
I mean, you should.
But, why? What goes on?
Well, Jean-Claude Van Damme's in it. And
is he
Jean-Claude
badass?
Van Damme is it a great movie if you like corny fucking movies.
That is a very corny movie. I think is he M. Bison?
No, he is somebody who's not in the games.
Oh,
he is just a guy.
God, I haven't seen that in so long. I actually rewatched Mortal Kombat within the last year, which actually has Christopher Lambert in it as Raiden, who's also in this movie, which is very interesting.
Dude, the Mortal Kombat movie is epic.
I think I got like 2 or 3 of those in like the same case in the $5 bin at Walmart once. Which is a recurring thing now, apparently, that I talk about the movies I bought in the $5 bin. That's the only way I can afford movies, cinema audience. That means I need your money, is what I'm trying to tell you.
I don't need your $5, but I mean, you kind of do. We kind of do need your $5.
Yeah, I kind of need.
I think we're jumping the gun on that. Well, with all that out of the way, I would like to jump over to not only saying, well, yes, this is a main part of the Rock Set Shit Straight series, but this is also a crossover with what we have also called a series which is totally disjointed: The Good, The Bad, and The Richard Kelly. Even though I think the Donnie Darko episode will not exist when this comes out, because that is a doozy to edit, and I take full blame for that. Okay, everybody's, Ben, yay, laugh at me. Okay, laugh at my alcoholism. But we are discussing a Richard Kelly film. Go for it, Ben.
I hope you leave the joke when you first heard the word cinemaudience.
Oh, yeah, that's in there. That's in.
Yeah, that's the first usage.
Yep.
Yes, yeah. The time vortex doesn't make that clear because that's not going to come out apparently for like another year.
Yeah.
But that's the first. It's going to have the cabin in the woods treatment.
Yes,
it's going to be shelved for a while.
So yes, this is the second film from Richard Kelly. Also, the second film that the three of us are discussing from Richard Kelly. The first being Donnie Darko. But before we can get into Southland Tales and all that we have to say about it, I really wanted to throw it over to you, Ben, and ask you a question. As I already mentioned, since this is the Rock Set Shit Straight series, where you picked the first two movies, and I commented last week on the rundown about how you really found two movies where The Rock set shit straight. I was like amazed by that fact that they were almost the same movie but different at the same time. After seeing Southland Tales, without getting into your thoughts, without getting into any nitty-gritty, if you just want to make this a yes or no answer, in your opinion, in Southland Tales, does The Rock set shit straight?
I'm not confident that The Rock's character needed to even exist in this movie.
That is basically what I expected as an answer to that question.
No, he does not set anything straight.
I would say it's a hard no. I don't think Boxer Santeros / Jericho Kane / Dwayne Johnson / The Rock sets anything straight in this movie. If anything, he lets things happen.
Yeah, he's a very passive observer. But that being said, his acting is on point. He does some thinger stuff. He has some quirks.
Yes, he's got business. Yes.
Yeah, he actually is. You know, he's pulling out all the stops when it comes to playing Boxer Santeros. But Boxer Santeros is incredibly ineffectual. Well, we'll get to it, but I guess the fact that he exists is important for the movie, but his character could have been left out, I think.
Okay.
In terms of needing screen time.
Okay, fair. Even though
he had the most screen time.
Yeah, I think for all intents and purposes,
he was like the main character.
That's what I was about to say. He is the main character.
He is the main character for almost no discernible reason.
But he's The Rock, Ben. He's got muscles.
But there's no discernible reason for anything in this movie, so he fits
Justin
perfectly.
Justin is jumping the gun.
You're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's get there.
Okay,
he existed in as much as this movie needed to exist.
Okay, I already mentioned that I'm going to be fighting an uphill battle with this discussion, so I have a specific way I want to organize it. So I will mute you, Justin. I can edit you out of this conversation.
I cannot hold back, Rob.
Okay, this is how I felt we should go about this, because I have now talked to both of you off mic in separate occasions, describing my feelings towards Southland Tales, and they are not reciprocated in the slightest. So I figured that before we even do the background, because I have a whole lot of background I want to talk about with this movie, I decided that I would sit down and actually write a review for this movie. And I never do this. I don't usually sit down. We usually just let the discussion flow. But this is what I wanted to do.
Right now. You don't usually sit down. That's true.
I figured that I would read my review, and then I would throw it over to you two. You two can get all the negative thoughts you want out about this movie, and then we could do our background, let the discussion flow. So here we go. I'm going to read my review. It's not posted anywhere yet. I think I might share it on IMDb or something, because that's how much I care about this movie. I'll put it on the Cinemodities Reddit. That's a good thought, Justin. But here we go. And remember, if any of you laugh or talk, I can edit it out. So I'm just going to keep going. This should be,
I'm going to take a nap. Just yell really loudly when you're done. Wake me up.
This is Rob's review of Southland Tales. The can cut, the original cut, not the theatrical. Overall, I love this movie non-facetiously. I think this is an incredibly ambitious masterpiece of filmmaking, and it deserves an immense amount of respect. Any story that is this incredibly dense and nearly impenetrable gets my attention, and I love the fact that missing any piece of dialogue at all is a detriment to the viewer's understanding. The directing and the performances, with the exception of Mandy Moore, are unbelievably fantastic. The cinematography, with the entire movie being shot on 70mm or wide-angle lenses, provides us with an absolutely impeccable view and understanding of the world in which this film takes place. The score is ominous and haunting in the best possible way, forcing a feeling of melancholy in almost a contradictory sense to the elements we're seeing on the screen, but not to the themes of the movie. There is an incredible amount of care put into the mise-en-scène as well as the overall editing, with every object and shot having its place. This movie completely transcends the concept of did you like it or not, and enters a realm of the viewer giving themselves over to an experience in creativity, technicality, and control over the craft of the greatest art form we have as humans. You two, go. Go.
Justin, I'm sorry. I'm jumping in first. I actually have to say I disagree with very little of what you said. That being said, this movie's fucking terrible.
Okay, I'm gonna literally just I have to like mute myself in the recording. I just want you guys to go off of that.
Okay, so
I wrote a review too, actually, after I watched this movie. But if you want to keep going for a sec.
Okay,
or if you want me to throw that out and then we spitball, let me know how you want to do this, Ben.
I'll just say one more thing. I agree. Like, there's so many beautiful elements of this movie. The cinematography is beautiful. The way it's shot's beautiful. The score is beautiful. The acting is all really good. And somehow, this movie still managed to be one of the most boring and difficult to follow things I've ever tried to watch. I put effort into understanding this movie and have discovered that I'm fairly certain it actually doesn't make sense. Justin, go ahead.
Okay, this is great. This is actually great. Because I swear I wrote this immediately after watching the movie. And I think it echoes a lot of what both of you said. Largely exactly what Ben said, but here, let me just go, and then we'll talk. Okay, here's my description of this movie. An uninteresting dystopian comedy in quotes, an uninteresting dystopian comedy following lame characters that make sex jokes for edgy teenagers to fill the empty void generated by its lack of content. 2.5 hours of haha sex joke, haha political commentary, haha look, we paid The Rock and Justin Timberlake to do this. Now this is my summation. The most impressive aspect of the movie is it has all the makings of a great film. A great cast, detailed plot about the state of society and how humans could end the world, well-developed sets and cinematography, building up of suspense and climax, a great soundtrack and score, because apparently those are two different things. It's got sci-fi concepts, time travel, a post-apocalyptic society, commentary on Hollywood, yet it somehow managed to be so unbelievably terrible from start to finish.
I disagree only about the lack of content. I think there's plenty of content here. It's just mind-numbing.
It's just boring as all hell.
But you can dissect every couple minutes of this movie and dig into it and find plenty of stuff. But I just don't. When it's all put together as a viewing experience, it's just not. It just is not a pleasurable experience. I watched it.
I will agree with that.
I watched it
content,
2.5
it's
times.
just bad content,
and it was hard. It was hard to watch that many. Because I watched it once and I was like, I don't think I understood this. And then I watched it again and I was like, I don't think that this makes sense. And then I read stuff about it and I was like, even these people who are trying their damnedest to glue something together here are struggling. So Rob, I know that you love this movie.
Well, I want to ask Justin, how many times did he see it? Was this just a once of the can cut that I sent you?
I only watched it once.
Okay.
I agree with Ben. I had such a hard time paying attention to this movie and actually watching it. And this discussion reminds me of a Buddhist quote, which is, if you do something and you find it boring, do it again. If you still find it boring, do it again. And repeat that until you find something interesting and valuable in what you're doing. Now, I think I'm already noticing that we all kind of have similar takeaways from this movie, yet Rob somehow enjoys the process where Ben and I feel like we're being tortured. We all know Rob's a masochist, and it's becoming very clear.
I did ask the question of how many times you've seen it because Ben chimed in. I am not kidding you guys or the audience. I have seen the theatrical version now twice, and I have seen the Cannes version 5 times. And this is in the span of about a week and a half. Like, literally, I have no clue where you guys are getting boring from this. Like, I would wake up and go, I need to watch this movie. Like, I am so enthralled by this, and it's almost to an inexplicable extent. I tried to capture some of it in my review of why I think I love it so much, but man, the 2 hours and 30 minutes, because there are 8 minutes of credits in the version that we're discussing, the original version, the original cut, the version that played at the Cannes Film Festival, all 2.5 hours, it goes by like 5 minutes for me. Like, I am so on board for this movie.
It felt like
I repeat,
7 hours.
You are a masochist. I'm with Ben here. That was painful to sit through, and it felt like, dude, I had to get up to pee at one point, and I was like, all right, Heather, I've got to get up to pee because it feels like they're starting to wrap up. And I was like, we've only got 1 hour left. And she's like, there's still an hour? I was like, I know. I hate my life too right now, but I have to do this.
So I guess just something else I wasn't sure if we were going to get to. Honestly, I was racking my brain thinking about, like, you know, what are the best movies I've seen in the last 10 years? This is easily in my top 5. Like, this is up there. This is up there with Under the Silver Lake. This is up there with Revolver. This is up there with It's Such a Beautiful Day. Private Parts, the 1972 Paul Bartel film, not the Howard Stern movie. Like, this is something that I am going to think about for the rest of my life when it comes to film.
You shouldn't.
This is exactly the uphill battle I was referencing before we started this discussion.
Have you ever seen Manos Hands of Fate?
No, we've talked about that a little bit, but I have not seen that.
Or Red Cuba?
Red Cuba, maybe, or I've heard of it. I don't think I've seen it. Nothing comes to mind.
This movie's in the same realm as those movies for me.
Okay.
In that watching it is an experience, but it's not a good one.
That's fair. I mean, you know, I definitely see this film as something laying into my sensibilities or films and literature and art that I like. You know, something like a Finnegan's Wake or a Waiting for Godot. Like, things that are, I don't want to say intimidating, because I don't think that's the right word. I think challenging and nearly impenetrable. Those are things I really like.
There's nothing to penetrate.
No, I think that's... I agree with impenetrable, but I think it's impenetrable because it doesn't actually make sense.
Well...
That's not impenetrable. That's just a false sense of fucking there being something to glean from this film when there's nothing.
Well,
impenetrable is like there's
further,
something inside to get to.
I need to shut you down,
there.
Justin.
There's nothing in there.
No, you are wrong. You are absolutely wrong, because something that I did not force upon you guys is, which I did, I read all 3 graphic novels that served as a prequel to this, which make it a full story. There is a story here. You cannot say that there's nothing here because you are missing half of it. And yes, don't come at me saying, we're only discussing half of it. No, it's not dumb shit. We're discussing the movie because this is a podcast about movies. You never would have read 160 pages of graphic novels and watched this movie.
So I do have to interrupt and say that I kind of agree with you and I kind of don't. And the reason I kind of don't is because when it comes to the judgment of a movie, I like to judge movies as standalone things.
Yes.
So I don't like when it comes to people trying to tell me that the Lord of the Rings movies are great, but you have to have read the book to appreciate them. Well, then I'm sorry, that's not a great movie. Maybe it's a great tag along for the books, but it's not a great movie. If you have to qualify, like you have to have read this other thing to appreciate the movie, then that is not a standalone good movie.
I agree with you completely, Ben. You have to read the graphic novels to get a full understanding of the story. And that's why I'm not disagreeing with either of you guys saying you did not like this movie, it was boring. But I'm disagreeing with Justin saying that there is no story here. The story is fully fleshed out. It's not apparent in the movie. I'm totally agreeing with you there. That's a reason I like it, you guys don't. But you cannot say this is meaningless. This is not an example of sprezzatura and just defensive irony. This is a fully fleshed out story that he decided to deliver in 2 parts.
So I got thrown into the final act of a play, not realizing there were acts before this.
The movie does tell you chapter 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah, that's your fault, Justin. It starts on chapter 4, and I know I have told you that I will read the graphic novels leading up to this. So you cannot say that you were unaware of them, just that you forgot them.
Yes, but it's so hard to pay attention to something so boring.
So I
that's a personal fault, I think. I don't think that's an objective statement about this film.
Yes, I said earlier, you find it enjoying. I find it terribly boring.
Well, no, it sounds like you're defending your idea that this movie is useless because you can't pay attention to it.
Maybe I'm conflating the two because I've got very strong opinions.
That's fair. That's, as cinema audience might know, Justin tends to do that, but that's fair. As long as you realize that there is a story here, and it is fleshed out, and I could spend an hour describing what the graphic novels fill in with the movie, but I don't think that's what our audience wants to hear.
Yeah, I was unaware of that until we started talking about it.
I actually think that the story that the movie tells is a whole story in some sense. I think my problem with it is that there are aspects of it that just don't make sense. And specifically, why Roland and Ronald are both alive, provided that the way that the extra boxer died is the vehicle that he was in exploded, which was also the vehicle that Roland, is that his actual name? I don't remember.
Yeah, the real name is Roland, yeah.
That's also the vehicle that he was in. So there's no reason he shouldn't be also dead. And there's also no reason that I can think of that there shouldn't be infinitely many copies of him.
Now that's an interesting idea. The why he's not in the car is explained in the graphic novels.
Okay.
The infinite copy thing was something I was thinking about as well. Like, how do you put somebody in a temporal rift and not just have it repeat?
Right. Yeah. So like, why didn't the version of him that survived actually go through the rift?
Yeah. Exactly.
And then just make another copy. And so that was my problem that I had with it, is the time travel aspect there didn't make a lot of sense to me. I felt like the movie was kind of long-winded also. I think that they could have cut out quite a bit of it and I would have been happy with it still.
Okay.
I would have been happier with it.
Just so you know, the theatrical version is 14 minutes shorter, so it's still over 2 hours.
Yeah, I would have been happier if this movie had gone under an hour, or under 2 hours.
I agree, under an hour. Great.
I think an hour 50. They could
the actual Richard Kelly's first ever cut, which this might lead into some of what I want to talk about on the background and Richard Kelly with this movie. But the first cut of this movie ever, not one that we get to see, but the one that he did in the editing bay first round draft, was 3.5 hours long. And I read that and I'm like, oh my god, I want to see it so bad. I'm also the one that, as the cinema audience knows from years ago, the only version of Watchmen that I will watch is the ultimate cut, which is 4.5 hours long. I will never watch any other version of that movie.
So another problem I have is I don't really like a protagonist that is almost irrelevant. Like, he's relevant because people use him and use his existence and his position. But other than that, he's not relevant.
That's what I was about to say, is that he is almost a tool of other characters. He, in and of himself, is a shell of a character.
Yes. Yeah, and I didn't care much for that, because I think if we were going to focus... Like, I would have much rather focused on Taverner more of the movie, since Taverner actually kind of is a main point. But that's like... I guess this movie's kind of all over the place in the sense that there's no, like, one specific focus that you should care about. Which... Yes. Is not a criticism necessarily, because I'm sure that's a thing that audiences might enjoy, or some audiences might enjoy. But I think that the way that I approach movies is I want to be told a compelling story.
Sure. And
I don't want to have to work that hard for it. And it's like, I mean, if you read the Aragon series books by Christopher Paolini, there's in some of the later books, maybe the second book, they kind of hop back and around between characters, and the same thing goes on with Game of Thrones. And like, that's why, like, Game of Thrones even has too much of a meandering, like, wandery story for me to really want to get into. Not to say that I don't like what I've seen, but that's just that I don't want to have to try to pay attention to it. So I don't pursue it unless somebody, like, is watching it with me and wants to make me watch it, essentially.
Sure. As some type of a guide, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's a very important point about this movie, is that, you know, if I had to compare or maybe, you know, say what do I see as influences to this movie, that kind of the way that this movie is structured is very much kind of, you know, loose vignettes throughout the entire thing. So many characters, and when certain arcs end, others begin, and we aren't really sure how they connect ever, as we've been saying. But, you know, I see a huge inspiration on Richard Kelly in this film from both Pulp Fiction and Mulholland Drive. Mulholland Drive, of course, is loose vignettes related, but we follow our main character, where Pulp Fiction is really just like, you know, non-linear, we're following things and coincidences drive the story. And I kind of see this as Richard Kelly's attempt at that style of storytelling. Because, of course, referring back to Donnie Darko, that is a character-driven piece. Like, Donnie Darko is the heart and soul of that movie. Where here, we don't really know who we're supposed to be rooting for, and if the two sides at odds are even different from each other, if that makes sense.
Well, and I think it ends up being that they're not necessarily two sides. But one thing that also kind of drove me crazy is that, like, Bookman, when he kills Dream and Dion, like, I have yet to figure out what the hell their motivation is for turning that fake double murder into an actual double murder.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, that is not explained by the movie. Yeah.
Unless they actually want Dream and Dion dead for some reason, which was never clarified. It doesn't appear to me that their actual death furthers their cause any. In fact, it appears that their actual death hurts their cause, because then they take the tape that they were going to spread out into the world and hide it. And then later, whenever somebody else is going to spread it out for them, they try to stop that. So, like, apparently their motive at the beginning was never to actually spread this tape out, but the whole point of that was to apparently make Boxer Santeros look bad, which makes the Republicans look bad. But that doesn't make any sense either, because Boxer Santeros is just there with a cop, and the cop kills somebody in front of him. So that doesn't defame Boxer Santeros in any way whatsoever. I guess that's what I'm getting at when I say the plot.
You're making Rob's argument right now.
In what way? That this part of the plot makes no sense whatsoever?
No, in that there's so much incredible detail that he finds intriguing. There is
a lot of detail, but the detail doesn't make sense.
Can I actually weigh in on something here? So,
no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Of course, Justin.
you know, Rob, you said a minute ago, where I'm not sure who I'm supposed to be rooting for here, things like that.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the key themes. And conceptually, there's a lot I find intriguing about this movie. Again, I had a really hard time sitting through it. I found it terribly boring, and I think a lot of people would share that sentiment. But that doesn't mean there's not a lot of intriguing concepts to it. So I think the whole point is everyone in this movie is incredibly flawed, because they are in this post-apocalyptic society, and as a result of that, as a result of, like, the world nearly coming to an end, that they're all just fucked up. And so we're watching just a bunch of fucked up people. Not fucked up people that, despite being incredibly traumatized, are somehow completely keeping it together, like in a lot of movies, right? Like Harry Potter. Perfect example. Completely traumatized character, and you can criticize his angst and this and that, but he's like, I'm going to completely keep it together and save the world and solve the world's problems on myself. And we see that a lot in media.
Yes.
That people go through this.
About Harry?
Harry, yeah.
Yeah,
Harry.
he's incredibly well-humored for how much he was abused as a child.
Exactly.
Like, not even taking into account what happened to his parents when he was a baby.
Right.
He may or may not have been impacted by it.
And he's like 16, 14. right? And people are like, oh, he's so angsty, he complains. Why doesn't he just be like the great hero everyone needs him to be? Well, but have you thought about what he goes through? I'm sorry that's not enjoyable for you to read book 6, where he's just an angsty teenager. But goddamn, could you think about what you would be like in that situation? You would be most people would be helpless. They wouldn't be able to, worry about anything, and solve their own problems, never mind the world's problems. So in this movie, they don't hold back. They're like, these people are just like products of a fucked up world that happened because of this nuclear bombing.
I definitely think that is one of the main themes that I got from this movie as well, is that we can't, we talk about the movie starts with the nuclear bombing in Abilene, and then we talk about how there's like a World War III, and that's where Pilot Abilene came from, and I think that this movie is
I have to say, I hated that. I hated that his name was the same name as the place that got bombed.
Pilot Abilene?
I hated it because I was never sure if I was remembering it correctly.
But I have to say, I think you are correct. I agree with you in the sense, Justin, that, this movie is about you can't win against the enemy unless you win against yourself. And I think that's the whole point of the last maybe 15 minutes of the movie, when Roland Taverner shakes hand with himself and they have to deal with the fact that something I got from the movie after multiple viewings, and is also made clear in the graphic novels, Roland Taverner is the one that hurt Pilot Abilene in World War III. That's why he's saying friendly fire, it wasn't our fault. And the last scene in the movie is a character literally meeting themselves, having to deal and get past a trauma that they've done to others, because you can't win against the enemy before you win against yourself. And I think that's a huge theme of this movie. Everyone's flawed, and you need to deal with that within before you deal with it outwardly.
It's good shit.
That wasn't our fault. It wasn't our fault. Friendly fire. I forgive you. Friendly fire. I forgive you. Friendly fire. Friendly fire. I forgive you. Friendly fire. I forgive you. I forgive you. I forgive you.
And God wiped away the tears from his eyes so the new Messiah could see out to the New Jerusalem. His name was Officer Roland Taverner of Hermosa Beach, California. My best friend. He is a pimp, and pimps don't commit suicide.
Yeah, I was aware. I think I read some stuff online. I couldn't watch it multiple times, so I did go out and read some additional shit about it.
Okay, good. That's the next best thing. Yes.
They did mention that he was he threw the grenade or whatever that hurt Pilot Abilene.
Yep.
And that had something to do with some kind of like secret experiment thing that was going on.
Yes.
I'm not exactly sure what.
Yeah, it is not explained in the movie, but it is very quickly explained at the beginning that the drug that they're injecting into their necks is straight fluid karma, which is the thing that is being used as the energy source by the Trier Corporation. And the Trier Corporation, in World War III, they were creating special units of soldiers where they would inject them with fluid karma because it was giving soldiers like telepathic abilities, so they would be able to communicate telepathically without saying their orders out loud. And this went horribly wrong, and it just basically like spiked their adrenaline, and Roland Taverner was just on the warpath and shooting people, and when he threw a grenade towards the enemy, he didn't realize Pilot Abilene was there, and so it was friendly fire, that type of thing. But that was the experiment, was using fluid karma as a war device.
So was the Baron, I don't know, maybe I misunderstood this part, but when they're first talking about the energy field that the Baron and like quantum entanglements, how they pass the energy along or whatever, like they're talking about harnessing the energy of the waves. But then later it becomes clear that they're actually removing some kind of substance from underneath the crust, the core of the Earth.
Yes.
Not the core, the crust. So were they being dishonest about harnessing the energy of the waves? Wasn't harnessing the energy of the waves supposedly what slowed down the planet? Was it actually harnessing? Was it actually harvesting the fluid karma that slowed down the planet?
That is an exact question I had after seeing this movie a few times before I read the graphic novels. The graphic novels do explain that in the sense that the Trier Corporation, headed by Baron von Westphalen, they dig into the Earth's core and they find this kind of layer of a different type of fluid that works in the same way that waves does in that perpetual motion machine, as they describe it, and they name it fluid karma. And their company starts to remove that from the Earth. And it turns out when that comes into contact with oxygen, it turns into energy. Like, that's how fluid karma is producing energy. But as the Trier Corporation sets up these big drilling rigs and takes more and more fluid karma away from the Earth's core, and it's actually surrounding the Earth's core in like a very serpentine pattern, hence the name Serpentine Dream Theory as the name of the project, they are reducing the rotation of the Earth.
Okay. But that certainly doesn't vibe with what he tells the public about how he's producing energy.
Oh, no, because I think he is a through-and-through liar to the public and to his constituents. The great scene at the beginning when he cuts off the dude's hand instead of the finger.
Right.
Like, that was good.
It is all just him.
The 6-inch mark in the mirror.
Oh, my God. I mean,
cutting radius.
There's so many. We have to get into the performances of this film. Not only is this star-studded, but Baron von Westphalen is Wallace Shawn, who I've loved for years, who everybody knows as the guy who says, "Inconceivable!" from The Princess Bride. And he is so good in this movie. But I think before we get to performances, all these details, if there's other top-line items, we should bring it up, but there's some background I'd like to talk about as well. So Justin or Ben, were there any kind of big thoughts you had about this movie? And I think now that I say this, there's one that I wanted to discuss about your review of this film, Justin. But before I do that, any others that you guys had?
I mean, aside from the fact that the characters' motivations were unclear to me,
sure,
which I've mentioned a couple different instances, I think, of that, and then the almost irrelevant protagonist, I think that's the bulk of what I have.
He's
to
an
say.
Object, not a character, Ben.
Well,
he
yes,
is
but
The Rock, which is an object.
but this is also like his greatest acting performance probably ever.
Yeah.
And so for him to be an object in this movie just feels ridiculous. But
sure,
anyway,
that's fair. That's a good point. What about you, Justin? Any other top line items?
Yeah, I gotta say I'm impressed, Ben, that you managed to go into such depth with this film. I think if I really tried, I could also form similar critical arguments, but I did not have it in me to just go that deep with this thing. So
it was
respect.
Not easy, and I did have to read some other people's work because I just couldn't watch it enough times. And then some of the stuff I read did reference the graphic novel and indicate. Yep. So there are things that I know that Rob mentioned only came from the graphic novel that I actually already knew from that other research. So, like, I'm not sure if I figured it. No, I definitely read the whole thing about Roland being the one who hurt Pilot Abilene and shit. So,
sure, yeah.
There, like I said, there's a lot here. I'm just not sure that it connects well or makes sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't disagree with you there, and I'm actually kind of shocked. When I said this was going to be an uphill battle for me, I thought it was going to be literally you two going, Rob, why the hell did you waste my time? But it's actually been like, wow, this movie is very well composed. I just didn't like it. And that's a really good thing as far as I'm concerned. Like, you can not like a movie. I thought you guys were going to be like, this is garbage filmmaking. And I'm like, oh my God, no. Like, this is a masterpiece of cinematography. But
no, and like I said, there's a lot I agree with about your review. I just also didn't like it.
that's fair. I mean, Ben and I have had that on the Neon Demon. So, you know.
So I totally feel like my time was wasted. It reminds me a lot of our Chernobyl discussion where I'm like, you may not have liked this, Rob. I'm not telling you have to like something for it to be good and for there to be value. I can see the value in this despite the fact that I think most people would feel like they lost their life, a valuable time and of life energy sitting through this.
You know, that's actually a good point, Justin. When you brought up Chernobyl, I think I'm conditioned myself to go, oh my God, are we talking about this again? But that's actually a really good point. Chernobyl for Justin and I is the exact flip of how we're feeling
Yes.
about Southland Tales, where I said the first 20 minutes of Chernobyl and the last 30 minutes are fantastic. Everything else is boring and a waste of my time.
Right.
And okay, good
my
point.
argument has always been, it's not about your time for this to have intrinsic value. And we actually get into this argument a lot, which is why I need to bring this up, because there's so much shit that you just don't like, which is cool. But I'm like, it's got intrinsic value, Rob. And you're just like, this should never exist. So get wrecked.
Well, I don't know if I think you're embellishing when I say it shouldn't exist.
With
Shouldn't
video
exist in
games.
my sphere. Well, video games, we're not talking about video games right now. Video games are a cancer on the human race.
I'm talking about general opinions on things, but okay, that's
Okay,
fair.
no,
That's
but no, I'm actually really glad. I don't think I would have thought about that Chernobyl discussion, relation, but that's a really good point for sure. So Justin has earned his keep this week, Ben, on Cinemodities. So I think the
Good.
last...
He'll get what, 5% of the profits?
No, a
something like that?
penny. Hey penny.
A hay
Remember
penny,
giving people
that's
hay
right.
pennies. Yep.
Hey, I'll take it.
So I think the last thing before we get into or I get into the background, because I think there's a really fruitful discussion about the background and all the different directions we can discuss the creation of this movie and the reception of this movie. I do have to say to you, Justin, in your review, you described the sex and the raunchy jokes as just for the sake of being there. Is that correct?
Here, I'll give you my exact wording.
Yeah,
I thought they
please.
were way too much and pretty cringe. And I was like, oh god, another sex joke.
Well,
Ha.
I think that's where I want to push back, because I think that's the point of this movie. I mean, I think this movie is reflecting on society that occurred right after 9/11. If you remember, right after 9/11, in the years that followed, between 2001 and 2006, when this aired at Cannes, and in 2007, when this actually went to theaters, this was the birth of trash culture. We had major news networks figuring out how much time should we put to George Bush's decisions about the war versus Kim Kardashian's sex tape. We lived this as a culture. This movie encapsulates that time period where we had porn stars and politicians at the same level as far as the media was concerned. So I don't think these sex jokes are there to be raunchy or edgy or to get a laugh. I think they are a satirization of what we went through during the war in Iraq.
Oh, well, now I'm just depressed, Rob.
I
This
don't
is
know.
a very depressing movie, don't get me wrong, but go ahead, Ben.
I'm not sure that I made the connection to after the war in Iraq. I was fairly young around 9/11, and I don't necessarily remember the Kardashian Bill Gates time competition, but I definitely got the vibe that. So I guess I should go here instead. What this reminded me of is actually in Instagram influencers today.
Okay.
Where there's regular people who maybe are pretty dumb having an inflated sense of importance in society. And that's kind of compounded on by the fact that we at some point we see tanks that have Hustler on them. So Hustler
and Johnsonville, the sausage company. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we got porn mags funding wars. I guess the sense I got was just a degradation of society, not necessarily a direct commentary on what we went through, but it does seem kind of relevant today. And there's also some of the stuff around neo-Marxism that kind of hit me a little bit because of its relevance today.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because that was another thing that I was thinking watching this, where I remember, as you brought it up, Ben, with your history, maybe Justin and I, we were physically and maybe a little mentally closer to the concept of 9/11. I mean, Justin, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe we were both in New York when 9/11 occurred, so it was a very big deal to
school.
us. And seeing how that changed life, and then also seeing the rise of, like I called it before, trash culture in that same time frame, was very, very close and personal to our upbringing. And that's just what I saw this movie as. When you have, Krista Now, she's the porn star, and she's like, I want to do jewelry and a talk show and an energy drink. And I'm like, yeah, this is the Kardashians. This is what we had back in the late 2000s, and now what we're still getting today. I want to tie it back into what you said, Ben. This movie is almost prophetic in some sense of not only the trash culture that I'm describing, but the extremism in politics. That you have those who say, no, we should be able to do whatever the hell we want with our bodies, and the other side saying, you need a thumbprint to log on to the internet.
Yeah. So I agree with you about the prophetic nature of the way that he portrays society. That's one of the many things that I thought this movie did very well. I'm reminded of a quote I actually heard earlier today. I heard it coming out of Michael Malice on the Joe Rogan podcast, but I think he said that he heard it somewhere else, that a conservative is a liberal who's gotten bullied, and a liberal is a conservative who's been arrested.
I like that.
And I think we see some. I think we see a little bit of a parallel of that, like kind of in Boxer Santeros. Not that he necessarily experienced those direct scenarios, but that he was apparently at some point very Republican, and then he lost his memory, and he became this like cog in the liberal machine. Mm-hmm. And I think. Well, liberal, I think, belongs in air quotes there also, because these people, the neo-Marxists, are terrorists. Like, no doubt, 100%, they are terrorists.
Cutting off thumbs for votes, yeah.
Right, like, yeah, they're trying to rig the election, and that feels reminiscent of the day with all the talk of the 2020 election being rigged.
Yep.
So I don't know.
People said 2016 was rigged too.
Oh yeah, with the Russia intervention, all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but I mean, they're talking now about how like directly the parties are going to be rigging it, not just outside influence.
Sure.
Like there was some hints.
Well, they said that about 2016 too, though.
Well, I mean, I think they say that about every election, but I think, Ben, what you're getting at is the mail-in voter stuff and the yeah.
Sure.
And with the thumbs is a huge analogy. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I mean I don't know. It's just the parallels to today are almost like are pretty stunning, especially like we see the far leftists of today are the people rioting in the streets. Not to say that all of them are, but the people who are rioting are far leftists, or at least claim to be, and to see neo-Marxist terrorists, I guess, fighting to gain control back of the country after a major disaster, or not a disaster, but a major catastrophic event caused people to want to vote for security, which voted in the Republican Party and got U.S. ident up and running. And I guess the only missing part of the parallel is that we didn't have such a similar catastrophe that led to the voting in of Donald Trump. I think I have some personal things that I blame for that, but I don't know that we had like a catastrophe. But now we find ourselves in this situation where one side of our political spectrum has become okay with being terrorists for the sake of trying to put their party back in power. And that's I don't really use the term terrorist lightly, but the people who are rioting and burning down cities, specifically people who have set cop precincts or police precincts on fire and locked the doors to try to murder all of the people inside, because like, make no fucking mistake, that is attempted murder on in the most real way. There's even a Criminal Minds episode about people locking doors and burning down buildings, and that's the way they do serial killing for that episode, you know. So like it's just kind of astounding to see this movie from 2006 that predicted it. It didn't predict it intensely enough though. Like the riots don't start until the end of the movie. Whereas the riots have been going on for 100 days.
I'm glad you say that, because there is a quote I read from Richard Kelly, which was like maybe 7-8 years after this movie came out, where he says, you know, I think it might have been a little further. I think like before Donald Trump got elected, he said someone interviewed him and they asked him about Southland Tales, and he said something along the lines of, Southland Tales is too tame for today's political climate. And I was like, that's I kind of agree with that. You're right.
yeah, I agree. Especially today, the polarization, and you know, to the audience, if you're liberal or conservative or whatever, I'm not telling you that I disagree with you or that I hate you, but I think there are a lot of people that are saying exactly that, and I think that is one of the things that I see as like the number one fault of our situation right now, is people being unwilling to attempt to look through each other's eyes.
Fair.
I guess I'll get off my soapbox now and let you guys talk for a minute.
Justin, any comments on the that my comment on yours saying that the sexuality and the raunchy jokes are a representation of what trash culture has become in U.S. today?
Yeah, I have a comment about your comment about my comment about the movie.
Yo, dog, I heard you like comments, so I put a comment in your comment about your comment.
I did not put the connection together, and initially, and I hate that aspect of our society. To be honest, the trashy side, and that we have a really hard time getting down to facts, and we're just so friggin' absorbed with celebrity culture instead of actual facts. I mean, I'm not going to get into specific examples. I don't want to go deep into the political hole here. But yeah, I hate that aspect of our culture in a lot of ways, and I wish we'd just get down to like real facts and real problems and put our heads together in like a fucking reasonable way. And I think I also hated seeing that in this movie, and that's probably why I didn't like it in the movie either. But the fact that it actually does connect back to our world makes me depressed. That's all I gotta say.
I will say that sometimes it can be difficult to distinguish between satire and endorsement.
Yes.
And because of the extremes of today, this could feel like endorsement, whereas perhaps back in 2006 it felt more like satire.
Well, it just felt like raunchy jokes for the sake of raunchy jokes.
Well, and what I'm getting at is that
you're right.
Is that the culture that we exist in right now makes it easy to believe that that's what this was.
Yeah.
Whereas the culture that existed in 2006 might have had a different impact on you. You know, if you had seen it then, it might have felt more out of place and therefore more like a satire.
Yeah, and that's always a tough thing, you know. We're, of course, looking at this, oh, Jesus, I think, we're like an hour into this discussion. I'd even mention, none of us had seen this movie prior to this recording. Like, this wasn't something Rob has loved for years. Like, this was cold for all of us, so all of these thoughts are coming off fresh. And we are truly giving it the 2020 outlook to a 2006-2007 movie. 2006 with the version we watched. And that's why I think that what we're saying gains a little more credibility, if anything.
Sure.
Like, I'm not saying, like, wow, I saw this in 2008 and I've had 12 years to stew on it. Like, I might have seen this more than you guys, but we are all coming off of, like, a week, within a week of seeing it, basically.
Yeah, I'm 48 hours off.
So I wanted to tie that back into something that's going on now, and since this episode is going to release fairly soon, I mean, Time Vortex notwithstanding.
Oh, this is the next episode to release. I got to edit this in like 4 days.
oh, good. So the whole satire versus endorsement, or commentary on a problem versus actually just being an example of the problem. I mean, that shit Cuties from Netflix really. It's right there.
I was thinking about that, Ben. Like with the whole teenage horniness is not a crime. That watching them talk about teenage horniness in the same week that this whole Cuties blowout's happening, I couldn't help but relate the two about like we should just stop talking about minors and sex in Hollywood.
I'm glad you added that in Hollywood aspect. Yes, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
We should not teach abstinence, which I'm very much against, but we should not be putting this in the media culture. I'm with you there.
I
was banging when I was a teenager. I'm not saying.
I've said to you before, Justin, that the only thing I could do when I hit puberty was think about how much I wanted to have sex. Like that's why my high school years I failed and missed a lot of classes because I could only think about sex.
You and 90% of the world. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
I actually was going to pitch at some point that we talk about that movie, but then I figured I didn't want to have to bleach my eyes out.
Yeah, Ben, I've had enough of eye bleaching.
I don't want to watch that
with Law and Order Special Victims Unit, so I think I'm good.
Yeah, I think that the cinema audience needs to be aware. Don't request it; it's not happening.
Oh God, yeah, that'd be rough. I mean,
I'm not watching child porn.
Yeah, that's something we have to talk about, Ben, as we go forward. It's come up months ago, but like Zach and I really wanted to discuss the Surviving R. Kelly documentary. And then we watched it, and we were like, no, we're going to get in trouble. So, yeah, that's Cuties falls in that same vein, absolutely.
There are a few good reviews of people who have seen the movie on YouTube. Shuan had for those of you that are interested in knowing more about the movie from the perspective of someone who actually watched it, Shuon did watch it and does talk about it, and it is. I mean, I had to stop. Actually, no, she censored out a lot of the stuff. There was another guy who put some clips of the scenes, and I had to turn it off because I just couldn't take it.
Okay.
I couldn't stand watching 11-year-olds dance in a manner that's very sexual, and then also having the camera pointed directly at their pelvises.
Oh.
I couldn't handle it.
Oh.
So I had to stop watching that video.
But
he does talk about how bad it is.
I have to ask. You mentioned Shuon Head.
Yes.
Is Shuon? Is it a she?
Yes. Shuon Head is a lady.
Is Shuon Head the YouTuber, the actual girl that did the Shuon Head thing from back in the mid-2000s? Are you aware of Shuon Head?
I'm not familiar.
So I think when the website Live Jasmine started, which is basically like the first version of Cam Girls, like you pay women to see them get naked, there was a very famous, like an early meme where somebody was in a chat room of like one of the most popular girls, and she was like, you give me a donation, and in the next 10 minutes, the highest donation, your request, I'll do that. And someone donated like $2,000 and said, put your shoe on your head. And she did it, and it became like one of the first memes, and it was Shoe on Head. I'm very interested. I need to know, is Shoe on Head the YouTuber, the girl from 2003 that put a shoe on her head?
To be completely honest, if that is that sounded like a porn thing, I don't suspect that it's her.
It was 100% a porn thing. Yes.
I don't think she's old enough to have been doing porn back then.
Okay. So she's just referencing Shoe on Head because it's
Perhaps.
like a meme now. It's like that's an ancient
inspiration.
meme.
Yeah. So I didn't actually know the origin story. I figured it was some dumb inside joke.
That was like hot talk in my middle school when I was in like 7th, 8th grade. Like the girl that put a shoe on her head for money on a porn website.
Right on.
All right, so I got another thing to add here.
Oh yeah.
About my general thoughts about the movie. This reminded me a lot of Donnie Darko. Actually, I thought there were a lot of themes and elements to this movie that were reminiscent to Donnie Darko.
I wonder why.
Yes. I mean, obviously, they're both Richard Kelly. But I just wanted to point out, end of the world themes, big time end of the world themes. We've got some time travel, parallel universe concepts, things like that.
There were definitely some similarities in pacing also.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
sure.
The speed of this movie felt very much like the speed of Donnie Darko.
Yeah, I definitely kind of, the first time I watched this movie, like going in completely cold, I was like, oh yeah, I get it. This is what Donnie Darko would have been if Richard Kelly had more money.
And he wanted to make it incredibly dense.
Yep, exactly. Because, I haven't finished editing our Donnie Darko discussion. I don't know if we get to it, but the whole director's cut of Donnie Darko is like an extra 45 minutes of stuff that directly relate to the manipulated living and the book that Grandma Death wrote and things like that. So Richard Kelly has always wanted to just be like, let's bog down the audience in lore and hope they get it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Half of our Donnie Darko discussion revolved around me being like, Ben, all this stuff makes sense if you just read like 50 pages on the internet about like all the laws about the magic behind this universe.
That is true. That's what happened.
And now we're doing the same thing.
The best part of my addition to the Donnie Darko discussion is the beginning when I go, hey, isn't the score and the soundtrack to this movie amazing? Let's talk about Tears for Fears for half an hour.
And the score and soundtrack were great in this too.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
was one of the things I actually enjoyed.
Sarah Michelle Gellar actually recorded a full 3-minute track of Teen Horniness Is Not a Crime, and I have put it on my phone so I can play it for people.
Open your hearts and your mind?
Yes.
Is that what it is?
So we will have to talk about, I think we've gotten our major thoughts out of the way. We have some
yes.
The audience, the cinema audience, I should say, has a great understanding of where each of us are coming from with this movie and how we're willing to discuss it as well, so that's good. I think the next thing that I think is the most pertinent for us to discuss is the background on Southland Tales. And as everybody listening to this, our cinema audience, they know that we've kind of done this in reverse, because Rob usually likes to start with the background. But I felt that we needed to get our big thoughts out of the way so everybody knew where we were coming from. And oh man, there's a lot right here. But let me start by saying this movie made its debut in 2006 at the Cannes Film Festival. Richard Kelly got a personal invite to play this new movie at Cannes. And not only was he invited to play it, but he was actually allowed into the contenders for the Palme d'Or. And the Palme d'Or is like the best picture of the Cannes Film Festival. Just to put this in perspective, some of the winners that I really appreciate from Cannes and Palme d'Or, Taxi Driver, the Martin Scorsese film, Sex, Lies, and Videotape, Steven Soderbergh film, Wild at Heart, the David Lynch film, with Nicolas Cage, which I know Ben and I have seen. I love that movie because Laura Dern Nicolas Cage is smoking a cigarette. Laura Dern says, "I'm pregnant." He lights another cigarette and puts it in his mouth, so he's smoking 2 cigarettes. That's a great film. Pulp Fiction won the Palme d'Or back in 1994. And most recently, the last iteration of the Cannes Film Festival, Parasite, won the Palme d'Or. So this is a big deal, not only if you win, but of course if you're in contention. And this movie actually was, if you can believe it or not, the version we watched and that we're discussing today. When this played at the festival, I am not kidding you, it was booed. Outright booed. And there's actually a quote from Roger Ebert, who was at that viewing, and he said, "I was dazed, confused, bewildered, bored, affronted, and deafened by the boos all around me." This is a really rare occurrence. The Cannes Film Festival has existed for a long, long time, but for a film to get outright booed, that's how you know Rob's going to love it. But jokes aside, I did want to mention a quick bit about the same Cannes Film Festival in 2006 where this played. This was actually where the Da Vinci Code premiered, the Ron Howard adaptation of the Da Vinci Code book. Have either of you guys seen the Da Vinci Code movie?
No, I always plan to read the book and then watch the movie, and I never got around to the book.
Okay, I actually read the book and then saw the movie. I read the book before the movie came out, then saw the movie. At the premiere at this Cannes Film Festival, people laughed at it for the entire 2 hours. And that is the correct response. This movie is so stupid. So I just had to get that in there, that Zach and I have a big history with the Da Vinci Code. We do this thing where every time we go to theaters and the lights start to dim, we go, "Wait, this isn't the Da Vinci Code?" And I know I've never done it with you, Justin. We did a lot when Zach and I went to theaters. But that movie deserves all the laughter that it gets because it is horrendous. So that's the first step in the history of Southland Tales, is that it played at probably the biggest film festival in the world and got outright boos. Like, nobody liked this movie. And just, for completionism, it did not win the Palme d'Or, of course. It lost to The Wind That Shakes the Barley. I have no idea what that movie is, and I did not look into it. So maybe we'll check that out one day. But we come to the next time it played. So remember, when the three of us discussed Under the Silver Lake way back when, we talked about how that played at a film festival and it got a negative reception. So the studio said, how do we edit this to release it to theaters so it'll be more profitable, so it will relate to audiences better? That was the same deal with Southland Tales. The distributor, Sony Pictures, they said, well, wow, this got negative reviews. What do we do to make this movie work when we actually want to sell it to general audiences? And that is how the theatrical cut came around, which is, like I said earlier, 14 minutes shorter. It cuts out certain parts. It adds a lot more narration. It tries to explain things better. As far as I'm concerned, compared to the original version, it is not as good. I think it holds the hand of the viewer too much. That's a different discussion for the three of us for another time, because clearly Justin wanted his hand held the whole way through. But the next time this movie played, before its theatrical release, was at Fantastic Fest. Zach and I have talked about Fantastic Fest before, and I do have to say that then when this movie, the theatrical version, played at Fantastic Fest in 2007, early 2007, the reviews were mixed rather than completely negative, so it did a little better, but Fantastic Fest is a different audience. And then, in April of 2007, this movie drops. Okay, so guys, just so you know, I mean, it's no big deal. This movie cost $17 million. It's it's not too big for a theatrical release, for a Hollywood release, especially with Richard Kelly coming off of the success of Donnie Darko, which I think was $4 million. He got some more money to do this film, but then it made a great $350,000. This might be the biggest loss of money in Cinemodity's history.
I wonder why.
Well, I'm glad you say that, Justin, because it actually, if you do your research, it's not only because this did not connect with mainstream audiences. I'm not saying it did. It did not. This movie was not an audience-going, word-of-mouth type of thing. But you have to take into account that when this movie was coming to theaters, when it was in its promotional phases and released, the Writers Guild of America strike occurred. And you might say, well, what the hell does that have to do with promotion for a movie? Every single late-night talk show that actors go on and promote movies did not exist for almost 8 months. That is a huge reason that this movie did not make a lot of money. You can talk about, like, The Rock was scheduled for Letterman, Sarah Michelle Gellar was scheduled for Leno, XYZ actor, all of the A-list actors they had in this film were ready to go on circuit and promote this film, and they all got canceled in a week. I don't know if you guys remember how big of a deal the Writers Guild of America strike was, but, like, that's why certain shows got canceled. That's why certain shows that usually got 23 episodes a season had 8 episodes that season. Like, this was a huge impact on TV. And while, yes, Justin, this movie was not made for commonplace audience goers, but you have to take into account that this movie literally had no promotion behind it. And that's a huge deal when it comes to making money. Thoughts on that? I don't know if you guys remember the writer's strike. Does that have any thoughts on that?
Didn't it impact 30 Rock?
Yeah, 30 Rock was delayed. 30 Rock was one of the ones they chose not to do a season. They delayed a season by like a year and a half because of the writer's strike.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I remember.
That's why every season of Lost has 23 episodes except season 4, which has 16. Because of the writer's strike. They had to just end. They had to stop.
Yeah, that's... I remember... I just remember it being a big deal. I remember, like, a lot of people talked about it. It was like this huge thing, like, TV was never coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was one of the times in my life of film understanding of TV and film criticism that I realized how important writers really are. You know, I think that it's a big misconception, like late night talk shows, because that's part of this discussion. Like when you had Letterman, you know, Letterman just doesn't get up there every night and do his shtick. They spend the week, the day, writing his shtick. Letterman is a fucking puppet for the writers. And when the writers wouldn't write, Letterman had nothing to do.
Yeah.
Jeopardy got canceled even, because no one was writing questions for Jeopardy.
Damn. I think there were, that was like what time of the year was that? That was like, I don't know, I'm having trouble remembering, but I just remember.
I think it was like summer to fall.
It's like summer typically has a lot of reruns, and the reruns just like kept going.
Yes, the reruns just went, and that was the point in time where it hasn't happened since the writer's strike, and now it's happening again in COVID, that Jeopardy was like, let's play 30-year-old Tournament of Champions videos. Right. And they're doing it again now in COVID because they can't film Jeopardy. And they couldn't do it during the writer's strike either because no one was writing questions. You think fucking Alex Trebek writes questions? He just gets fucking comment cards with the questions on them.
Yeah.
Justin, do you remember the writer's strike?
Vaguely. You know, props to the writers for striking. Stick it to the man, you know, I'm all about it. Not only did they probably end up getting more money out of it, but they saved so many people from having to see this movie, so respect.
Okay. I see where you're coming from, Justin.
That's pretty funny.
So yes, we cannot mention that this movie made $350K against 17 mil without mentioning the writer's strike. That's a big deal of it. But still, probably one of the worst performing Cinemodities movies ever.
Transition.
Yeah, perfect. I think that the next thing I want to mention is that, you know, not only about this the movie's creation, but more in the background of who Richard Kelly was and how he was able to get this movie made. Richard Kelly, of course, was coming hot off Donnie Darko, and I think that everybody needs to remember that Donnie Darko wasn't a hit out of the gate. Like, it did take some time for that to become the classic that it is. And so when that started to really gain traction, it was maybe a year or two after its release. And Richard Kelly was trying to figure out, well, where would he go next? As any good director should. They say, well, yeah, I did my freshman effort, I put forth my writing, my directing, and now that it's got me some attention, how do I use that? And I think everybody needs to remember, or know if they aren't aware, Richard Kelly was offered the directorial job of X-Men 3, The Last Stand, because of Donnie Darko.
Oh, that one was good.
And he turned it down to make this movie. And Justin, I could not disagree with you more. X-Men 3 is probably the worst X-Men film in existence. Like, I would take the unedited version of Wolverine Origins over X-Men 3.
I like all the X-Men shit, man.
That is
X-Men's
the worst
just good
thing you've
fun.
ever said on this podcast.
I also like most of the X-Men stuff.
That is the worst thing both of you have ever said on this podcast.
I don't know how much I remember the third one, other than the Juggernaut.
I was just about to
the
say,
Juggernaut.
that is
I'm
the
the
only
Juggernaut,
thing
bitch.
anybody remembers about the third one. I'm the Juggernaut, bitch. Liv Schreiber trying to do the worst accent he's ever done in his life.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!
Well, I mean, for anybody who doesn't remember, the X-Men The Last Stand that we do get, it's the first attempt at the Dark Phoenix storyline.
Yeah.
And nobody liked it. Nobody liked it.
Well, I want to point out, like, I don't have a problem with things going off canon. Like, I don't mind when they switch storylines up and whatever. So I think a lot of the people had issues with that because it was one of the first times they saw, like, a beloved storyline get told in a not the same way. So I think people would would see that movie differently today.
That's a good point. You bring up the idea that this was one of the first times that comic book fans saw movies deviate from the storyline of comic books, which now is just commonplace. I mean, the entirety of Infinity War and Endgame could not be any more different than the Infinity War of the comic books, and nobody has a problem with it. But back in the day, before we had the Marvel franchise, when comic book fans who were the primary film goers of comic book movies saw something different, they revolt. Hell, not even X-Men The Last Stand, but also Fantastic Four, The Rise of the Silver Surfer. I remember so many comic book fans being like, wow, Galactus is not an energy cloud, Galactus isn't a being, and they had so many problems with that. Hell, I think I've said on this podcast before, my favorite superhero / comic book entity is Silver Surfer. His real name is Norrin Rad. I own Silver Surfer #1. Like, I have his hero clicks. Like, I love Silver Surfer. And they just ruined him in the movie.
Yeah, he was really lame in that movie. It's okay if you don't stick with canon, but at least do something good.
Yeah.
And he was lame as shit. I used to have a Silver Surfer action figure, like a figurine on top of my TV as a kid, actually.
Well, I guess I also want to point out, like, the reason I don't mind when things go off canon is because they've rebooted those universes so many goddamn times.
Yeah, you got to switch it up.
And, like, I don't know that had happened as much, or at least it wasn't in I wasn't aware of it as much back in the X-Men Last Stand days.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's a good point. That's exactly what I was looking for with this conversation. But I mean, the part of my brain, the filmmaking part of my brain, kind of thinks, well, what if Richard Kelly went from Donnie Darko to an X-Men movie? Like, what would have that X-Men movie been like? I'm really interested in that alternate universe type of thing.
I am too, actually. I would have loved to see Richard Kelly's take on that script. I think he would be a bigger name. I think Richard Kelly would have gotten more attention.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
He'd be more popular. He'd be getting paid more, I bet.
He would have made more things that we've heard of.
Yeah, that probably would have propagated his career to what which he's basically unknown now. He hasn't made a movie since 2009. I do want to talk a little bit about the other projects he's done, but I mean, I think the person who ended up directing X-Men The Last Stand was Brett Ratner, and Brett Ratner right now is I Did a Bad Touch Man, one of those people. So
he's got me too'd.
he's gotten Me Too'd and canceled in every form like that. And I think Brett Ratner's one of the ones where it's not allegedly, it's like he legitimately did do some bad things, and they've proven it. So yeah.
I think Richard Kelly would have done something that Ratner couldn't have done. With
Definitely.
That movie. I think that's why.
If I remember correctly, X-Men: The Last Stand is the one where Magneto like lifts up the Golden Gate Bridge to connect it to Alcatraz.
Yeah.
And that's like a big set piece in the movie, and it's just like you gotta be a fucking moron not to look at San Francisco and think of that idea. Like, I got a man that can control metal, a giant bridge to the left of me, and an island to the right of me. Like, that's the lowest hanging fruit as far as I'm concerned, that you would connect the two. I would hope Richard Kelly would actually have done something clever.
I mean, with Magneto's powers and how powerful he was, there was no shortage of ways for them to get there.
Yes.
Like, they could have taken all the cars off the Golden Gate Bridge and fucking welded them together and made their own bridge.
Can we do a tight 5 on how stupid Wolverine is written in the first 3 X-Men movies? Because literally every single, it's X-Men, I think it's X2 it's called, and then X-Men The Last Stand, every single movie, Wolverine's like, I'm gonna murder Magneto. Every other character goes, no, your bones are made of metal. He'll kill you. And he goes, I don't give a fuck. And then goes, oh, my bones. Like, they never figured that out as writers.
I just want to throw out there that adamantium probably shouldn't be magnetic.
well, then you got to go back 50 years and talk to Stan Lee.
So, like iron, cobalt, and nickel are like the ferromagnetic metals.
Sure. Well, no, you're talking way too smart for comic books right now, Ben.
I'm just saying. I don't think... It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me that adamantium's magnetic. I've
just never understood why in all 3 movies, Wolverine forgets the fact that his literal arch nemesis is Magneto.
Yeah, that's fair. I'm pretty sure in the first one, Magneto makes him stab himself.
I think so.
I think it's also in the first one when he like spreads his claws out and just like hurts his muscles, I guess.
Tries to like splay them and tear his hands apart and that type of stuff. I mean, the first X-Men is a mess because it's all about Rogue, and that's just a fucking nightmare of a movie.
Can we also point out though that Magneto's clearly not at all concerned about Wolverine in any way?
Oh yeah, no, zero.
Because if he was, he would have murdered him in the subway or any of the times he interacted with him.
Yep.
Which also doesn't make a lot of sense. Other than, I guess, that Magneto doesn't want to harm mutants because, I don't know, mutant power, I guess.
Well, he doesn't just needlessly kill them. He's all about mutants rising up.
Yeah, Magneto isn't really fleshed out in the first 3 movies, if I remember correctly. It's when we get to the altered timeline with Michael Fassbender playing Magneto, where he's like, mutants are the next evolution of humanity. We need to nurture them and that type of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's actually in keeping with a lot of the stuff from like the early cartoons. And
yeah, absolutely.
So, but I just like if Wolverine, like, he could have just ripped his fucking head off and it's like it's not as if your joints are made out of bone. Like,
yep.
I mean, like yes, the bone part of the joints are made of bone, but they're held together like muscles and ligaments and shit. Like, he could have just like spread the bones apart. And I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yep, those movies are nonsense. So, okay, good tight 5 on X-Men right there. So, I think the next place I want to go with the background is, I'm not sure if Justin or Ben are aware of this, but one of Richard Kelly's best friends in real life, not after he made Donnie Darko, not, when he started in the movie business, but they knew each other from a fairly young age, I think in their teenage years. Richard Kelly is good friends with Kevin Smith.
Oh, shit.
That is why Kevin Smith is in this movie, which we'll talk about later. I don't want to get there yet, as Simon Theory, the dude who looks like Karl Marx. But I actually got the chance to find and read an interview with Kevin Smith where the interviewer brought up Richard Kelly and Southland Tales. And in this interview, Kevin Smith describes the script, not the final product, the script of Southland Tales as political pulp fiction, something I talked about earlier. But he goes on to actually compare Richard Kelly to Christopher Nolan. And Kevin Smith makes a really good point, because as soon as I say that, comparing Richard Kelly to Christopher Nolan, you might have a lot of alarm bells go off. But this is the point Kevin Smith makes. He says that Nolan became who he is today as a filmmaker because of the special handling that he got from Warner Brothers. And I totally agree with that. If you look into the history of Christopher Nolan, Warner Brothers picked him up pretty quickly and let him nurture and do almost whatever he wanted to do as a filmmaker. Kevin Smith goes on to say that even though Christopher Nolan got special treatment from a studio, Richard Kelly has never received that same treatment. Richard Kelly has been kind of the wandering child of filmmaking, even though he's had these great hits. Donnie Darko, his great hit. And Kevin Smith ends this quote or discussion by saying someone needs to Nolanize Richard Kelly. And this really made me think that if Richard Kelly had accepted, say, X-Men The Last Stand, say he had done a big blockbuster movie and it had done well, would a studio have given him the room to breathe and realize his ideas? Because as it stands, Richard Kelly had no one to help him with Southland Tales. It was just a mishmash and exuberance of ideas that came off as wrong to many people. Did he need that incubation period that Christopher Nolan got with Memento, Insomnia, and then finally being given the Dark Knight Batman series and let breathe and realize what he can do as a filmmaker? Thoughts on that?
I mean, that's kind of what I was getting at when I said that, that he would have had a very different career if he had done.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I was kind of saying. Christopher Nolan does Following, which I'm not a big fan of, but it's a 70-minute crime noir film. He goes on to do Memento, where he has a clever gimmick for how to tell the story. He goes on to do Insomnia, which is a remake of a Swedish film, but he adds a lot more humanity to it. And then people see this and they go, hey, do you want to do Batman, one of the biggest properties in existence of the world? What if Richard Kelly had done that with X-Men? It's such a neat thought idea.
Yeah, I think it's kind of a shame we haven't gotten more Richard Kelly, because it's clear he makes really intriguing and interesting films. So to see what else he could have done and what else he could have gone on to make, it's interesting.
I think the idea is that when you talk about Nolan going to Warner Brothers, when you talk about any big director going to a studio, that they have some sense of being reined in. And I think in terms of a grand scale movie of a big box office, success in a movie making a lot of money and getting a lot of good word of mouth, Southland Tales could have been that, but he had no one to rein him in. There were too many ideas. There's too much density in Southland Tales.
That it's actually, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's another one of the kind of relationships between the liberal and conservative sects of humanity. Sure. Which is that the liberals tend to have a lot of ideas, but about 90% of them are bad. and it's the conservative's job, the conservative who doesn't really want to change anything, to pick the ideas that are worth pursuing.
Ben, are you saying that two forms of ideology should come together to form the perfect ideology? Are you saying that, or are you a Nazi? Clearly you're a Nazi. That's too extreme for today's political age. Either one is right or one is wrong. Don't you dare say genetic algorithms are the best outcome.
Well, I mean, there's a reason we call them wings, I guess. Because you need two of them to fly.
Oh,
that's
God.
a good one.
That was good. This like Southland Tales, I think that this episode might go over the cinema audience's head. I can only hope so.
Well, I mean, there's just this is one of the first times that we're seeing politics enough in the content for me to think it's worth talking about in the episode.
Definitely.
And I'm trying to refrain mostly from like my specific ideas and which ideology I subscribe to. My general impression, though, is that the left and the right need each other, and they don't seem to realize that.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? Justin, any thoughts on that, or the possible Nolanization of a young filmmaker like Richard Kelly?
Yeah, like I said, it would have been really interesting to see what else Richard Kelly could have gone on to do. And I too think both sides of our political system are cracked. and needs some help.
Yeah, I think we are all, for the cinema audience, all three of us are in agreement with that extremism is never the right answer.
Yes.
Unless you extremely hate Southland tales.
Okay, thanks, Justin. Justin's our comedic relief this episode.
Well, we needed it, so.
Yes, definitely. Any talk about politics needs some comedic relief, slightly, I would say. Okay, so I really wanted to mention that. I loved that kind of comparison to Richard Kelly and Christopher Nolan. Even though they might not have been at the same age when they were up and coming in the film industry, they were coming up in the film industry at the same time. And I think Christopher Nolan, of course, went one direction where he's the dude who can say, hey, I don't care about Corona, go fucking see my movie in theaters, where Richard Kelly is now going, I don't know if I'll ever make a movie again.
Exactly.
So I think the next thing I want to go to is just to finish out Richard Kelly. Something I didn't know until I did my research for this film. Of course, as we talked about in our Donnie Darko discussion, in the time vortex we are in, I will relate this once again. After this movie, Southland Tales, he does direct and release the 2009 film The Box with Cameron Diaz. I still have not seen that. For Justin and Ben, I do have a copy of it now, so we will get to watch it one day and discuss it. If Justin will come back, or I think he's going to run from this podcast forever after seeing something so boring. But
I'm traumatized.
I was actually shocked that in 2013, Richard Kelly was in pre-production, like almost a week away from filming for his fourth directorial effort, and it was called Amicus. I could not find any information about what Amicus was about. I had just found that Richard Kelly had written some of it. He'd had some rewrites done by other famous writers, but he was directing it. It was his idea. And I was like, oh my God, like, why didn't this happen? 2013. The reason that this movie did not go forward because a week before they started filming, the lead actor that they had died out of nowhere. And they chose not to recast. And they moved on. The studio decided not to recast. That's not up to Richard Kelly. And this movie basically got shelved. That lead actor was James Gandolfini, Tony Soprano himself.
Oh my God.
So can you imagine we could have had a fucking Richard Kelly movie with Tony fucking Soprano? That would have blown all three of his previous films out of the water.
Oh my God. That's the greatest movie that's never going to exist.
Ben, I don't know if we've talked about this. Earlier this year, I watched all of The Sopranos for the first time, and it is probably one of the greatest things in cinematic history. I think that, just to relate to our audience once again, because Zach's not here, and Zach gets angry every time I bring up The Sopranos, you think The Sopranos is just mob bosses doing hits and shit like that. No. There's extended dream sequences. There's cerebrality to these episodes. It was one of the most intellectual TV shows I've ever seen about mobs. And it is, I would say at the end of the day, probably my third favorite television show of all time. And that is a big leap seeing it, in the last 6 months. And I think I've said to Justin, I know I've said to Zach, for years I went on record and I said the season 2 finale of Lost is the best episode of anything ever put to television. Until I saw season 5, episode 12 of The Sopranos. That is the only thing that gives that episode of Lost a run for its money. The Sopranos is so good and so deep and so thought-provoking that you are blown away by the fact that, 40% of the series takes place in a therapist's office discussing feelings. Like, I loved it. But yeah, James Gandolfini died out of nowhere. If everybody remembers, he just had a heart attack and keeled over, at a very young age, I think 52. And that's why Richard Kelly's movie stopped, because they could not find someone to replace James Gandolfini. And I'm very sad about that.
What was that movie called?
Amicus. Amicus.
It sounds like Richard Kelly was plagued, and he almost had a career.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Yeah, that is upsetting.
So I think the last bit of background that I want to touch on...
Hashtag give him another chance.
Yeah, Richard Kelly. Well, I guess to be fair, just to tie up the Richard Kelly, I didn't do a lot of research into this because I don't know if it exists. I was looking around a lot, not for this recording, but in the last few months. Everything I've heard, Richard Kelly is working on a Rod Serling biopic. Rod Serling is the creator of The Twilight Zone. And as everybody knows, Ben and Justin and the cinema audience, I love The Twilight Zone. I hate Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone. I've seen literally every episode of any iteration of The Twilight Zone to exist. Rod Serling is a creative mastermind. I would love to see where Richard Kelly goes with this. The end of the background, before we get back into the film proper, talking about scenes and whatnot, there were two things that I really wanted to highlight, which are actors' response to this film. Because, of course, since this Southland Tales has come out, whether it be at Cannes or theatrically, people have interviewed the actors, and they said, well, what do you think about it? The first one I want to mention is probably the most insane. Justin Timberlake. Okay,
he was good.
Oh my God, we're going to talk about the musical number in this movie. We're going to talk about that. But honestly, from what I found in my research, Justin Timberlake's entire part of this movie, the musical number, his scenes in the gun chair over Hermosa Beach, and his narration, they did it all in 14 hours.
Damn.
That is unheard of for a movie. And I think that's really cool. Just to tie this together, Justin Timberlake has been interviewed about this movie. The big one that stands out in a lot of journalistic representations of Southland Tales, people have asked Justin Timberlake about this movie, and he has laughed and then said, I don't know what this movie is about.
You're not alone, bro.
And I was like, okay, Justin Timberlake, I could appreciate that. The other one I wanted to mention was Wallace Shawn. So Wallace Shawn, of course, is the guy who plays the wizard, Baron von Westphalen. And he said that he did not understand the script upon his first reading. And even after seeing the finished product 3 times, he still found it incomprehensible, but liked it very much.
Boy, this is a very polarizing movie. Like, you fall into one or two camps.
Yes. Curtis Armstrong, who everybody should know as Booger from Revenge of the Nerds. In this movie, he's the guy who puts the monkeys through the trans-dimensional rift at the end. Dr. Siberius X, if you know his character name, like I do. He described this script as impenetrable but intriguing. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's impenetrable was the word I used. That's fun. So I want to tie up this background by saying, I don't want to get into the whole detail of it because there was a lot of great movie making behind the scenes stuff. I did watch the Blu-ray bonus features for this film. One of them was about a 30-minute behind-the-scenes film where they really talked about the making of this movie, and I love that stuff. I think you and Justin and Ben, they know I love that behind-the-scenes movie magic. Like, they talk about all of the special effects that went into Takahashi, the Japanese guy's hand getting cut off. They went into all the special effects of Bing Zinnemann getting hit by the car at like 2/3 of the way through the movie. Like, they talked about how they do these stunts and special effects, and I was so into that. Ben knows this from our discussion on Cabin in the Woods, that I live more for the creation of those creatures than that actual movie. But one of the things that I found to be most revealing about this 30-minute bonus feature was that they interviewed a lot of the actors in the film, the main actors. You know, Curtis Armstrong, Wallace Shawn, The Rock, Sean William Scott, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Nora Dunn, John Larroquette, like a lot of the main actors in this movie. And the thing that stood out to me was that every time we interviewed an actor, they were very metered in their speech. You could tell that they were being very careful about what they were saying about the film. Like, you could kind of get the sense that they didn't really know how to answer the questions that were being posed to them, but they were trying to be professional as possible. Like, there's a lot of pauses when The Rock talks, and The Rock is like, I think this character is about his...
So we have a bunch of
psychic
people acting, and they have no clue what they're even acting out.
Yes, but
Is
here's
what you're telling me.
Yes, and that, I think, as I mentioned before, a lot of the actors in this movie didn't really know what they were doing. But then, about 2/3 of the way through this 30-minute background feature, we get to Sarah Michelle Gellar. and Sarah Michelle Gellar talks about her part in the movie at like 400 words a minute. Like, she does not make a pause. Like, either she's on the greatest coke in the world, or she fucking gets her point in this movie. And it was such a disjointed thing to see, where, you know, you have The Rock, like I said, going, boxer, Santeros is a character in a movie. And then you have Sarah Michelle Gellar, who's just like, yeah, I think the whole concept of, Krista Now, she's saying now because she wants to be now, and I feel that with her, that we don't want to be left in the dust. Even though movies come out in the past and they exist in the future, we don't really know how they're going to be handled. And I'm like, oh my god, this is whiplash from how these characters or actors are talking about this film. So I have so much more respect for Sarah Michelle Gellar after watching this behind-the-scenes featurette. Because to me, as Ben knows, she's always been Buffy, who is not that great of a character. I think Buffy is supported by everything else in that show. She kind of sucks. But I have so much more respect for Sarah Michelle Gellar as someone of her craft now, because she's the only person in this 30-minute featurette to actually understand what she was doing in this film. And I love that.
Have you seen all of Buffy?
I have seen all of Buffy, yes, and I hate all of Buffy. Except that first episode joke. I burnt down my gym because it was filled with asbestos. That's the best goddamn joke. Buffy is too goofy for me. Buffy is too goofy creature-oriented for me.
It is pretty goofy, especially the early episodes.
I don't like the resurrection stuff in Buffy. I don't like the lore that isn't set up. Like, Buffy, as far as I'm concerned, we just learn something new because the plot needs it to happen.
Yeah,
exactly.
I could see that. I mean, I still love the show.
I know, yeah, Ben does love... I guess, Justin, since you're here,
Buffy
what do you think about Buffy?
He's a Buffy buff.
I mean, I've only seen all of it once, but...
Ben, are you... Justin, are you a Buffy fan or an Angel fan?
Dude, I watched Buffy, you know, I thought Buffy was pretty hot when I was a kid. I never really watched it in any thorough capacity. I'll take Sabrina the Teenage Witch over Buffy any day, though.
Ooh, okay, you're taking the comedy over the lore. Okay.
Yes.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
I watched Sabrina also, but I didn't watch all of it. Like, I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't watch all of that either. I mean,
yeah, I've never seen all of Sabrina.
Those weren't never really.
There's a new Sabrina
seem like
on
shows
Netflix
to watch start to finish.
Oh, the new
There
Sabrina
is a new one.
Is garbage. I hate
I
the
don't
new
want to get
Sabrina.
like into Sabrina. It's just like this fun thing I'd watch when I was a kid when it was on. Not the kind of thing I want to like pour through.
There's a talking cat. That's all that the audience is.
Salem.
Yeah, there's magic and there's a talking cat. I'm good. Just give me zany episodes and I'm cool with it.
Caroline Leigh is one of the ants. Oh, yeah. Okay, everybody, cinema audience, not Ben and Justin, because I know they will completely disregard this. If you have a Hulu account, go to Hulu, search Sabrina Down Under. It's one of the Sabrina the Teenage Witch movies, and it is fantastic. I love that movie. Here we go. Ready? Don't laugh, Ben. Yet. One of the major plots of this movie is Salem trying to fuck another cat. Like, that's not the B plot, that's the main plot of this movie, is Salem finding another talking cat trying to fuck it.
I can get behind that.
That's very feminist, considering I think cats generally rape. So, it's good that he's trying.
He's looking for consent. He's not forcing himself.
Yes, that's right.
Respect,
that's good.
Salem.
That's
Respect.
good. I think the other thing I want to mention, there wasn't a second bonus feature on the Blu-ray, which is a 9-minute animated feature called "This Is the Way the World Ends." It describes from the point of two talking octopi, about how humans lost themselves to greed, corporations, animosity, that type of stuff. There was really nothing special about that. There were some cool visuals, but I didn't really think it added a lot to the movie in and of itself. So with that...
I want to say this about talking octopi. Without humans, there's no way they would be possible. They can fuck themselves.
Well, yeah, I mean, they do take place afterwards, so, I mean, you know. It's a... I guess the one thing, there is a pretty cool visual in this animated short where, like, the two main character octopi, they're looking over, like, this concentration camp of radiated creatures, and all of the radiated creatures are in the shape of America. And that's a pretty cool visual. And I'm just like, I don't really know what they're going for, but I like it. Let's throw it. We are in free form now for the movie. Justin, we'll throw it over to you. What do you got? Any kind of main scenes, performances? What did you want to point out about this movie?
Yeah. So typically I talk a lot about plot, but I really wasn't into the plot a whole lot in this movie.
Yeah, we got that.
But what I did notice a lot was the filming. So I really liked how all the shots were so chaotic. Like, I really got a strong post-apocalyptic vibe where everything was just kind of a mess and like a big sort of destroyed, scorched earth vibe. I really like the opening scene, how it was all that handheld cam stuff, and then you just see an atomic bomb going off.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That paired with the score makes that hit hard, for sure.
Yeah. And there wasn't a whole lot of specific scenes that, I don't know, really jumped out. The musical number I thought was pretty fun, to be honest. I also love that song. So.
I think I want to cut you off there. I think I'm just going to go ahead and say Justin Timberlake, his choreography and the lip syncing to the Killers, all these things that I've done. This might be is one of my favorite scenes in cinematic history. I love this scene. For every single reason, the eye line of the dancers, the way the camera moves, the way the camera tracks Justin Timberlake, the way that constantly in the background we're seeing the smiley face sticker with the scar on it to represent his face with the scar on it. Dude, this scene might be perfect.
And it's got, I got soul, but I'm not a soldier.
Did you know about that song before this movie, Justin?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I remember back in
big time
2004, I was listening to Hot Fuss. I still own that CD. It's in my car. Hot Fuss by the Killers. That is one of those songs that I really latched onto. I don't know, Ben.
You were playing that album when you were over at my place.
Yes, because of this movie. Yeah, and Ben, I don't know if you remember, there would be a few times we would hang out with Andy, and I would say to Andy, Andy, you're a star. And he would be like, what are you saying to me, Rob? And I'm like, it's a Killers song. That's from the same album that this song is on.
Right on.
Ben, what did you think about that scene?
I definitely... I don't have anything like nearly as maybe insightful to say as what you guys have talked about thus far, but I think that the scene flowed very well.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Like it was a smooth experience. And the music was very fitting, and I think overall, like it didn't feel, nothing about it felt forced. It all felt appropriate.
It really, as far as I'm concerned, that might be the heart of the movie. Like a soldier being damaged by friendly fire who is now turned to drugs and shooting people on the Hermosa Pier. He sings, over and in, last call for sin. Everything's lost, but everything's won. All these things that I've done. Like, it is the encapsulation of, well, what the hell did we do in a war as a country?
I did like listening to him say, I got soul, but I'm not a soldier over and over again, because he was a soldier.
Yeah.
I know, right?
And I love, at the beginning, he I got soul, but I'm not a soldier, and he holds up his dog tags.
Yeah.
It's immaculate. And I love the fact that all the dancers are dressed like Marilyn Monroe. For if anybody has forgotten, Marilyn Monroe started as a World War II Rosie the Riveter type of photo girl. Like, her point was to motivate soldiers. That is what she did. And before she was even Marilyn Monroe, she was working in a factory creating bullets. Like, that's her backstory. And so it's just inspired. That whole scene is fucking inspired.
Yeah, good work, Mr. Kelly.
I agree. It's really well done.
Oh yeah. Anything else? Any other scenes, Justin, that you had, or just that overall?
Yeah. So the last one was the ending. I really liked the whole vibe on the ship. There was that blue tint, and we followed the Chinese actress around for quite a bit. Basically, from the start of her, where it really like follows her path, opening the door, to the end, I thought all of that was just incredibly well shot. Up until literally the end of the movie.
That is
was
fantastic
really well done.
tracking. That's called a tracking shot, Justin. We follow one thing throughout a lot of stuff. But oh my god, the woman that plays Serpentine in this movie, her name is Bai Ling. She is a great actress. I've only seen her in a few American things. She's like a huge, Asian actress. And when she is just walking through the different rooms of the Mega Zeppelin and dancing, I'm just like, I'm there. I feel like I'm in the room with her. It's so enthralling.
Yeah, and you're like, who just walks through a room like this?
I do have to say that her dancing did feel out of place. Like, incredibly out of place.
Yeah, that's what
in that shot.
That's what I thought. I was like, who just does that? But it pulled you in, you know? It was intriguing. Just her movement, her motion.
Yeah, and I also don't think she's that big. She's very tiny, actually.
Very, very tiny. But, I have to say, what would happen if they shake hands?
Ben.
The fourth dimension would collapse upon itself. You stupid bitch.
Roland Tavler, his twin brother, they're the same person, aren't they?
Two identical souls walking the face of the earth, coexisting in a seeming dominion of chaos. What will happen if they shake hands?
The fourth dimension will collapse upon itself. You stupid bitch.
Justin, this is something I want to bring up from your review as well. You said that you would put comedy in air quotes. I laughed at a lot of this movie.
I didn't laugh
this
once.
This movie is so funny.
I've said so much about how much I love time travel, and this is like the one time I was just like, I hate this.
The time travel was very, like, it wasn't announced until very late in the movie.
Right, and I was like, oh, and now, of course, they're forcing time travel into the plot.
I think that the humor is separate from that, though. I mean, we get the beginning where, like Sarah Michelle Gellar is like, violence is a big problem in our society today. That's why I don't do anal. And then we go to later on where he's like, you know, the oceanography disaster specialist. And she goes, oh, astrophysicist, the oceanography disaster specialist. And
there is no stopping what can't be stopped. Only God can stop it.
But the New York Times said God is dead.
So in the end, I die in a very tragic downtown shootout, while whispering my theory to Dr. Muriel Fox, the oceanography disaster specialist.
Astrophysicist.
The oceanography disaster specialist.
It's just like, there's so much low-key humor in this movie, I thought. I was laughing almost constantly.
I
didn't find any of it funny.
I enjoyed the thing where she said that the Pilgrims showed up and ended the Native American orgy of freedom.
But deep down inside, everyone wishes they were a porn star.
Really?
We're a bisexual nation living in denial. All because of a bunch of nerds. A bunch of nerds who got off a boat in the 15th century and decided that sex was something to be ashamed of. All the Pilgrims did was ruin the American Indian orgy of freedom.
We're a bisexual nation. Canceled because of some nerds. Some nerds that showed up on the Mayrock or whatever she says. Plymouth Rock.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't know that I would go so far as to call it a comedy, but I did laugh at a few things in it.
Well, how can you not laugh at the scene with Starla Von Luft going, I want to suck your dick. If you don't let me suck your dick, I'll kill myself. Take your pants off right now, or I'm gonna pull the trigger.
If you should succeed, remember me, my love. Remember my name.
I will.
I want to suck your dick. If you don't let me suck your dick, I'm gonna kill myself.
Calm down, calm down. Calm down.
I don't want to live in a world where I can't have you.
Hold on. Wait.
Target locked. Take your pants off right now, or I'm gonna pull the trigger.
Dude, that is fucking comedy gold as far as I'm concerned.
The Dion and Dream fight thing is also pretty good.
Don't marry a hoe. You can't make a hoe a housewife. I don't want to be a housewife. I want to suck dick.
That's what I like to do.
Transform. Breathe. Dream.
Did you fuck him?
Yeah, I fucked him!
Oh!
I fucked him real good!
Oh, you liked it?
I fucking loved it!
Oh, you bitch!
I fucked your brother last night, too!
Oh!
I'll fuck him in front of you, too!
You fucking slut!
Don't point your finger at me!
Bitch, I'll fucking kill you!
You kill me, I'll get the fucking cops down here so fast!
How? You're gonna be dead!
I know people!
They're so good at improv.
Oh, I fucking hate you!
I fucking hate you!
Don't marry a hoe!
I wish we
You
never
can't
got
make one a
married.
housewife! You can't!
I
Fuck!
don't want to be a fucking housewife! I like to suck dick! That's what I like to do!
Oh, that's Wood. So the guy who plays Dion is Wood Harris, who at this time in filmmaking is either just at the end or coming off of The Wire as Avon Barksdale, where he is a drug kingpin. And then you see him in this movie with a prosthetic nose and prosthetic fingers going, "Oh, you bitch, did you fuck him?" Like, I cannot stop laughing.
Fuck your brother. I'm fucking in front of you.
Don't marry a hoe. Oh my God, Justin. You were outvoted. This is a hilarious movie.
Dude, I told you how I feel about that raunchy shit. Like,
so the part where he was like, "I'll kill you," and she's like, "I'll get the cops here so fast."
How you gonna do that? You'll be dead.
I did enjoy that scene. I did. I wasn't like laughing, but I thought that was like kind of funny.
I mean,
in a way that doesn't make you laugh, but is kind of funny.
That transcends funny. Then you're in awe of it, Justin.
I mean, most of the time when I'm by myself, I don't do that much actual laughing out loud, but like, I like smile and whatever, smirk a little bit.
Yeah, something's got to be really good for me to laugh when I'm alone.
Laughter is generally, I think, a signaling thing for humans. It's like we laugh to indicate to other people that we found things funny. Yeah. So like, like, if I was watching this with somebody else, would I have laughed? Maybe, but.
How did you not laugh, Justin, when Mandy Moore is looking at a DVD case and we get a shot of the DVD case that says "Cock Chuggers 2, Cock Chuggin"?
No, she actually, so I couldn't read cock chugging on it, but she actually says "Cock Chuggers 2, Cock Chugging."
Oh yeah. Daddy, what if this gets out?
Let me see the DVD. No.
Can we just all agree? I know I'm jumping all over the place. Can we just all agree the performances in this movie are fantastic? I think I love every single actor and actress, or actor if we're being progressive, in this movie, except Mandy Moore. Mandy Moore sucks in this movie. I really hate her facial expressions when she's like, "Daddy, we have to give them anything they want. We can't let the DVD get out." And I'm like, oh my God, stop it. Stop
Are you sure you don't just hate the character she was playing?
Go back to John Tucker Must Die, Mandy Moore.
I think she was fine.
No, she was a war crime as far as I'm concerned.
I think that you just don't like expressive women.
Well, no, I like
Oh,
Krista
shit,
now.
we're getting deep.
Krista now is fine.
She was not that expressive.
She had her own energy drink.
That does not make a person expressive. I had my own energy drink earlier today.
Well, hey, probably my favorite performance in the movie, to contradict what you're saying, is Cindy Pinzicki, Nora Dunn, as Deep Throat 2. She's fantastic in this movie.
Deep Throat 2, The Bitch is Back? Is that what?
Deep Throat 2, I presume. Do we all know who Deep Throat is, or is that something you guys are blissfully unaware of as well?
I don't know who Deep Throat is.
Oh, fucking...
Yeah, I don't think I know any of their names.
Oh my god. This is when I put my head in my hands and I say, how the hell am I recording things with these people? Deep Throat is the fucking informant that broke the Watergate scandal.
Hey.
Oh,
Follow the money, and this is Deep Throat 2. Follow the sex, and I hate everybody I'm talking, except Ben, I guess, because we're doing things in the future. I hate you, Justin.
Whatever. I hate you more.
Whenever she first says it, she says something like "Deep Throat 2, the bitch is back."
The bitch.
I thought that was
back.
supposed to be like the subtitle. That's the joke they were going for?
Well,
though,
yeah,
right?
I think so, because it's like Cock Chuggers 2, Cock Chuggin'. Like, in this era of media, everything needs a subtitle.
Yeah. So she's Deep Throat 2, The Bitch is Back, which I think is a great subtitle for a second iteration of a porn movie.
Deep Throat originally was not a porn, even though, I mean, well, no, I'm a sensible man. I don't know what Deep Throat means in terms of porn. It's the guy who broke the Watergate scandal.
Was that like his last name, Deep Throat?
No, it's his code name.
It's his code name. I think they've figured out
That's what they chose, so they consciously chose that name?
Yeah, back in the 60s. Someone literally chose
the
that
AOL
name.
Random name generator that gave him Deep Throat.
Mark Felt is Deep Throat's real name. That was the guy who broke the Watergate scandal, allegedly.
They only called him Deep Throat in the movie, you're saying?
No, he called himself Deep Throat in real life.
Why?
I don't know. He's dead now. I don't think we'll ever get to know
the
unless we fucking research it.
Probably
That's
so they wouldn't
actually
know
the
his real
dumbest
name.
shit.
Yeah, Deep Throat, follow the money. How have you fucking guys never heard of this shit? Do you know what? Do I need to explain what Watergate was?
No, we know what Watergate is.
I don't think you know what Watergate is,
It's
Justin.
very obviously.
Shut up.
It's like an iron chain link fence that holds back the water.
Ready? I'm gonna blow Justin's mind. Watergate was actually a name of a hotel in the scandal.
It was. That's true.
Justin's like, wait.
Speaking of Watergates, I watched a
Richard
whole
Nixon was
engineering
president?
video. I watched a whole engineering video on dams recently, so
That
I
is
know all about
definitely a
Watergate. Trust me.
Okay. I have another scene that I want to mention, which I think will be quick, and I'll throw it over to Ben. I have to mention it because I think it's only fair for Cinemoddities. It's something we have done for a long, long time, which we should have done earlier. N-word alert! This movie contains the N-word. Like, whoa! And The Rock, Ben, The Rock says the N-word.
He does.
So, do you hate The Rock now? Do you hate the N-word? Do you support neo-Marxism? What are we getting at here?
I mean, no.
No to all of them?
I don't hate The Rock at all. I think he's a fantabulous actor.
Do you think The Rundown would have benefited from both Sean William Scott and The Rock saying the N-word?
No.
I just wanted that was a total joke. I just wanted to get you guys' thoughts. I don't think the N-word, personally, I don't think it was used egregiously. The movie kind of plays it as that's what they're going for, to create a racist cop. But it was still very shocking in 2020, this day and age, to hear these two actors we know really well say the N-word nonchalantly, too.
Anymore.
Well, the subtitles definitely had the hard R, so.
Oh, okay.
We were not getting an A apostrophe situation.
Justin, what were your thoughts? Did you pause the movie and chant about it?
No, I mean,
I'll
said,
edit
like,
that out if you want me to.
Said,
that was
right?
rough.
He was trying to play the bad cop, and he was intentionally trying to be racist, so he dropped it. But it was still just kind of like watching it 2020. Like, you don't get that as much anymore.
Yeah,
it's
right. It's a sign of the times this movie came out in.
If this movie came out today, if that scene was made today, those actors would get canceled.
Oh yeah,
they would have had to make
exist.
it like. They would have had him like probably beat a black guy, but not do racial slurs. I would think,
well,
honestly.
I think the scene would still exist, but The Rock and Sean William Scott, I think they would have said, if a director wanted them to say that, they would have said, no, I'm not going to say that, and they would have replaced it with blacks.
Yeah,
right.
Probably.
Well, they wouldn't have chose the way to be racist, the way to display I'm a racist cop as, I said the N-word, I'm racist. They would have just approached it from some different angle to show that they're racist.
Yeah, they would have stopped and frisked somebody. Or
Yeah. I think you're both right.
They would have shot a black guy or like arrested a black guy for no reason or something.
They did do that.
Well, when The Rock said, don't you think emotions play into your role as a police officer, then like Sean William Scott would have said, we treat every day like protective citizens, and then there would have been something where he like sees a car stopped on the side of the road, he would have pulled over and mistreated an African American person, that type of thing. I think that's what you guys are saying.
Yeah.
We would have seen it more visually than audiophonically, I guess, is that the scene makes sense with them saying the N-word.
I mean, or they would have said stuff without it just being like, I said the N-word, I'm racist. They would have been more, they would have just approached it.
They would have said, we should have never stopped redlining or something.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, also, Ben, they could have just said stop and frisk, and probably people would get that in this day and age.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. If he'd been like, they need to bring Stop and Frisk down to L.A. because it's like the whole thing up in New York or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, make like a Compton joke or something.
Yep.
Bring it to Compton or some shit.
I had to bring that up. N-word alert for this movie. If you're listening to the 2 hours plus of this discussion so far, you will hear the N-word in this movie. The other thing you'll see in this movie, in both the theatrical and the director's cut, 2 cars have sex.
Yeah.
Oh my god, do I love that scene, man. I love it. I think the only thing I want to say about this scene is that when we get a close up of one of the car's mirrors, it says it really is as big as it appears. Not images in mirrors seem bigger than they appear. It says it really is as big as it appears. I mean, I kind of live for this shit. I want to see one exhaust pipe extend and one exhaust pipe turn into a vagina so 2 cars can fuck. This is what film is about, as far as I'm concerned. Am I alone there?
Yeah, I think so. It's right up there with Cuties for me.
Don't worry, sir. This is the European version.
Out of all the sex jokes, the one thing that's okay for me is the car sex.
I love the car sex scene.
I get off on that shit.
I love the car sex scene. The car sex scene should get an Oscar, as far as I'm concerned.
You play that one on repeat?
That's my screensaver.
Like a GIF of it?
Well, the best part about it is that it's revealed to be a commercial for the Trier Saltaire, and when we get the title card come up, it goes, "The Trier Saltaire, coming soon."
Yeah.
Dude, this is what I live for in movies! Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. So, with that being said, I think that was a lot of the scenes I want to talk about. Ben, were there any you wanted to pick up on or highlight?
I do think, like, when Bookman gets shot by the sniper, that whole kind of, like, their characters just came across to me as so fucking I mean, I'm sorry, stupid. Can we leak that out?
I like the fact, I'm pretty sure in the rundown and Walking Tall you say and I don't bleep it out because I'm fine with it, and now you're correcting yourself 3 weeks later.
Like I already mentioned how I didn't really understand what their motivation was for trying to hunt down this tape, or having the tape created at all in the first place, or setting up the double murder. Like I didn't. Their whole motivations were mysterious to me. Sure. And then they go out in public where presumably they know snipers are instructed to murder people who fire guns.
They have to know, yeah.
And Bookman shoots a gun straight into the air while standing on a table, making himself an easy target for a sniper. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So, like, I thought that was really
John
dumb.
Lovett's going, ooh!
Yeah, and then what's her face? The lady that he's with,
Sherry O'Terry.
Yeah.
She's a fantastic actress. She plays Zora Carmichael's in this movie. I've loved Sherry O'Terry for so long. And I just to backtrack, I love her scene when she tries to pay the ice cream armorer in a check, and he goes,
check, yeah.
"What? You don't take a personal check? No, I don't fucking take a check. Get out of here, you Cro-Magnon bitch!"
Then she starts beating his ass.
Fun fact about the subtitles: it actually said 2 words, Cro-Magnon, not Cro-Magnon. That's just. Whatever.
So, Cinemodities is on a winning streak. Cinemodities 10,000, subtitles 0. Every single subtitle file in the history of humanity has sucked, is what you're saying.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yep, subtitles are fucking stupid.
I like subtitles.
No, you can like subtitles, but they're wrong. 100% of the time, at some point in the movie, they are wrong. That's my problem with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think that anything else really stood out to me other than, like, we've talked about a lot of the stuff that already, we've already talked about. The "you stupid bitch" scene and the.
Oh my god, you got my Snapchats when I was watching that, right?
Yes, I did.
I think I Snapchatted that scene 6 times in a day. So I wanted to ask you, Ben, did you have thoughts on Kevin Smith? Because Kevin Smith does play a role in this movie. He's the dude in the wheelchair. He's Simon Theory. He's the one that, are you dumb or are you stupid or willfully ignorant? I said, put your sidearm down. That's Kevin Smith in so much makeup, but doing nothing to hide his voice.
Yeah, absolutely. He was almost unrecognizable as a person.
What is the game, Dungeon Master? Yep.
But his voice gave it away immediately.
Yep.
His voice is very distinctive to me. I recognized him.
I think that's why I'm asking you. I know on our Chasing Amy episode, we talked about our feelings on Kevin Smith. Did you have any kind of hardcore yay or nay feelings on him in this movie as this kind of tangential character almost?
No, I think his acting was on par with the rest of what we saw in the movie. I think he did a good job as the character. I don't think the character made a big impression on me, though, unfortunately, because he did have such limited screen time.
Yeah.
But I guess one thing we could mention is that the only time that the ground-to-air rocket launcher was used was not from the ground.
As Cindy Pinzicki says, John Larroquette goes, "What is that?" And she goes, "It's a flying ice cream truck."
Yeah.
So yeah. But earlier, Zora is asked about the rocket launcher, and he says it's a heat-seeking
ground-to-air missile.
Ground-to-air missile launcher.
And you can't afford it.
From Syria,
yep.
Specifically. I don't know why that's important. Is Syria an arms dealer? I don't know. But it's fired from on top of a flying ice cream truck, which I think just kind of bummed me out because
okay.
I don't think that he needed to be on the ice cream truck to use the ground-to-air rocket missile launcher to shoot something that was in the air. So the whole flying ice cream truck, as neat or whatever as it was completely contrived and unnecessary. And Sean William Scott, like the end result of him touching himself, not as gross as it sounds, being that it made an ice cream truck fly when presumably the fourth dimension was supposed to collapse on itself. I think all of that was just kind of nonsense, I guess.
I don't really feel the same way. I think that the ice cream truck flying with what we see is the process of the fourth dimension collapsing on itself and the end of the world, but I think the thing that is more pertinent to this discussion is the fact that I love that one version of Roland Taverner and Martin Kefauver, the dude who says dog in every other sentence, they rip the ATM out of the wall, and the ATM is what the ice cream truck hits to flip over. That is where I'm like, wow, this is fucking Pulp Fiction. Like, this is Coincidence the movie, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely was like... I assumed that was something about the existence of the same soul in two different vessels or whatever.
That they have to cross paths, yeah.
Yeah, so I assumed that it was not only that they would have to cross paths, but the actions of one would... Like, that was some kind of... almost actually back to some Donnie Darko shit where like the actual action of one had to impact the other.
Yep.
Type scenario. But no, I mean, so that I thought was interesting. But again, like you can force coincidences to happen in movie.
Fair.
So that didn't really didn't really redeem the fact that I felt a lot of what we saw after that was just like unnecessary. It's like it would have been great if I was convinced that the flying ice cream truck made sense. I would have been happier, I guess. I'm not really sure. I don't know, like the fourth dimension, assuming it's something like time, I don't know what flying has to do with it falling apart.
Understandable.
But again, I'm not an oceanology disaster specialist?
Oceanography disaster specialist. Astrophysicist, the oceanography disaster specialist.
So you mentioned that. I kind of want to say, like, it actually made sense, like the whole oceanography thing, when I thought that fluid karma was supposed to be harnessing energy from the waves.
And then Rob threw you for a loop.
Well, no, I mean, I knew from the movie it didn't, because fluid karma was also a drug, which I don't get how you go from harnessing energy of waves to being a drug. So I knew that wasn't what fluid karma had to have been, but if that was what slowed down the planet, oceanography disaster specialist would have made perfect fucking sense.
Fair. Okay, I think
But they don't want it to make sense.
Well, that's what it seems like.
That's,
I feel like
that's where we disagree, as I think we're wrapping in a circle. So, with all that being said, we can get to our real questions, which is, of course, something that we need from all of our hosts, especially when we are continuing on with this The Good, the Bad, the Richard Kelly series. And I'll throw it over to Justin first. Feel free to do them together. Cinemodities and Late Night, what do you think, man?
Okay, well, this is definitely not a late night movie because you should not watch this movie. If you're even listening to this far in, you've gotten more Southland tales than you will ever need. So
at the same time, juxtapose this with Rob saying this is the most important episode of Cinemodities in existence.
So this is a no period of time ever movie.
Okay.
And Cinemodity, yeah, this shit was just weird as hell. So it was odd in so many ways. I'll have to give it that.
Okay. Ben, I'll throw it over to you next. Mr. The Rock sets shit straight. I think before we ask you Cinemodities and Late Night, after this discussion, do you have any changes to the question I asked you at the beginning? Do you think The Rock sets shit straight in this movie?
I might think that The Rock is even more irrelevant in this movie than I did to begin with.
I just noticed, like, every time I feel like I say The Rock sets shit straight, I move my head a little bit with each beat, like The Rock sets shit straight. But okay, you have no updates. But then what do you think about Cinemodity and Late Night for Southland Tales?
So I would like to say that this is an odd movie, but I'm also hesitant to say that making a movie intentionally difficult to understand shouldn't classify it as odd.
Okay.
But that is odd, and then there were some other things about the movie that maybe qualify it as an oddity. So yeah, I'll go ahead and say it is a cinemoddity, especially given a lot of the background that you mentioned. Its history with the Cannes Film Festival and all that. It's had a very odd life, and it made so little money.
Savage.
No, Ben is right. I agree with Ben, and I think, Justin, you do too. We just laughed about it in different ways.
He's just that was just he low-key dissed the shit out of this movie.
What I say is a late night movie. My understanding is that this is what I ask or tell somebody else to watch this, or if I'm with them and can force them to watch a movie, would I do this? I was going to say, would I do this to them, which I think betrays some of my feelings. Would I make them watch this movie?
Would I do Southland Tales to another human?
I did make my sister watch this movie with me when I visited her, but that was only because I hadn't seen it yet. I think only if I really dislike the person. But I don't even know if I could put myself through that. So
they'd have to be really unbearable if you'd rather watch Southland Tales with them than just hang out with them.
I mean, have you met Rob?
Heyo!
And see, the thing about Rob is he would appreciate it too, because he'd be like, I love this fucking movie.
This would be the shit that if you forced this on me, you'd fall asleep 30 minutes in, and 2 hours later, I would be shaking your shoulders going, oh my God, Ben, you've changed my life!
Yes, that's right.
So I think it falls into me. Cinemodities, I think I'm going to echo the sentiments of my two co-hosts. Abso-fucking-lutely. Holy shit. Not only do I think this is a cinematic oddity, I want to go so far as to say that this movie is an example of why this podcast started in the first place. Like, this is a textbook definition, and I might say Hall of Fame cinemodity. Because of all the different responses it gets from people, because of all the confusion surrounding the existence and the context of this movie, this fits the bill in every single way, shape, or form. And I think you two guys might be surprised, but for Late Night, I have to say, no way. This is not a late night movie. This movie, if anything, is an academic exercise. And you should not watch those late at night. Like, this is something that students in a filmmaking classroom should watch at 11 in the morning when they are just into it for 3 hours and they're going to be having a discussion afterwards. You cannot show this to someone late at night because, oh my God, one of the biggest banes of the late night movie existence that I've always felt is people checking out. I never want people to check out during a late night movie. And dude, people will check out during this film, as I think we've discussed. So I'm actually shocked that for all of our different thoughts, we've reached almost the same conclusion for these topics, which I love, by the way. Don't get me wrong. But yes, if anything, I describe this film as an academic exercise.
I agree with the use of the word exercise.
Oh, okay. I did some curls today. I did some push-ups. I did 10 miles on the bike, and I watched Southland Tales.
And Southland Tales was the most grueling part of that.
Oh, God, this movie is immaculate.
I just wanted to get back on the bike.
This movie is immaculate. Okay, with that being said, we finished that. Okay, we're done. I get the last word. This movie is immaculate. No, I'm just kidding. We have to go to snacks now because we got to get the snacks, the restaurant influence for all three of us. And I think I want to start by probably the most low-hanging fruit. We need a Cinemodities Mega Zeppelin. Like, we need a Mega Zeppelin to launch out of the Cinemodities restaurant to host Cinemodities parties, which will be a Mega Zeppelin representation of Cinemodities, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's acceptable, as long as it isn't full of an explodable gas.
Oh, it will be. Like if anybody tries to smoke a cigarette, boom, everybody's dead.
Pretty sure Boxer Santeros fires a gun at the ceiling.
He does fire a gun. If you don't suck my dick, I'm going to evacuate this Mega Zeppelin. That is not the line in the movie, but it might as well be. So that was my first thing. We have talked about a long time ago a Cinemodities cruise ship. So I wanted to add a Cinemodities Mega Zeppelin. I have some other snacks, of course, but I figured I'd throw it over to you guys. Justin, I think I want to start with you because every time you're on here, you come in hard and fast with one thing. Is that still the case, or do you have something else for this episode?
Dude, I can't think of anything.
Well, fuck. This truly might be your last episode of Cinemodities. I think that's the barrier to entry for future episodes of Cinemodities. You have to do at least one snack.
I mean, I could say something. It's going to be terrible, though.
Well, you think about your decision, and Ben, I'll throw it over to you. What do you have?
So I'm having trouble thinking of a name for it. I think something like a lead snack or something like that. We will just give you a gun so you can kill yourself.
What the fuck? God damn.
Dude, okay. Are you saying this in the sense that you dislike this movie so much that any part of the restaurant that is affiliated with it deserves death? Or are you saying something different?
It's just a reference to Keith Albert trying to kill himself.
Okay, that's better than... Because Zach and I, when we did Dr. Sleep, which I still to this day, for our cinema audience, consider the worst film ever. Period. I was so against that movie, I said it should have no part of the restaurant, and Zach said no, it should be a cyanide pill, so you kill yourself when you think about this movie in the restaurant. Is that where you're coming from, or you're just thinking about the movie itself?
That's fair. I think that's an appropriate response.
I don't like that.
I believe you.
I'm the one on the restaurant floor, Ben. I don't like this killing people. How do we get rid of the bodies?
You don't like it because of how messy it is, or like...
That's bad for PR.
Oh, 90% of the dishes kill people, Rob.
That's okay. Yeah. That's killed by the restaurant. I don't want people to kill themselves because they don't want to be in the restaurant.
I mean, that is going to happen anyway.
There's a distinction.
We should also have one of these time rift things where you can make a copy of yourself.
Ooh. Okay.
And then you can end up with infinitely many copies of yourself.
One of them will be a pimp?
I mean, all of them are probably pimps.
Oh, wow. We're just blowing up the population of the restaurant at this point.
Yeah. They're going to pimp out the other ones.
Okay, I think I'm going to have a difficult time recording this in the Cinemodities spreadsheet, but I will go next. Wait,
I have one.
No! Okay, Justin, I'm getting to you! Jesus fucking Christ. I have an easy one. The Rock salad. Because
God damn it! I was going to do something with The Rock.
Because at the end of Chapter 4 in this movie, we get to see The Rock and Seann William Scott at the Sidewalk Cafe, which is a real place in L.A., and The Rock is eating a salad. So I want to serve The Rock salad, which is a salad with lettuce baby spinach, chicken strips, dried cranberries, shredded cheese, and pebbles. Because that's how we get the rock involved. There's pebbles, there's little rocks. I think that's great. I would eat the shit out of that, except for the rocks. Okay, Justin, now you can go. Unless I've taken it from you, I'll take the torch back because I have a few other snacks.
I don't know. Can I still do something with the rock?
Well,
Yes.
yeah, of course. Unless you're going to repeat what I just said, then you can't do it. Justin,
Okay.
you've been on this podcast enough times. You know the rules.
My menu item is called the rock.
Okay.
In honor of this being the series where we just cover the rock, we're going to have a menu item called the rock. And when you order it, the staff just brings you out a big fucking rock and leaves it on your table.
Okay.
No explanation, no nothing. And then if somebody else orders the rock, they come and they take the rock from your table and they put it on the next table's table.
Are you saying there's only one rock in the restaurant?
It is the rock.
It is the
Are you charged based on the amount of time you get to keep it?
No, you're charged the same amount regardless.
No, I'm vetoing Justin. Yes, it is a per minute charge for the rock. We need to make
I'm
money,
not in charge
Justin.
of cost.
Well,
We
I
need
mean,
to make money.
But then if somebody orders it right after, you don't get enough. There's got to be some minimum you put on it.
a minimum with a per minute add-on.
As Walter Mung, the ice cream truck purveyor, says, I have a $500 minimum. You didn't say that on the phone call, Mung. My reputation precedes me. You have to keep the rock for at least $500. Okay, I like that. I like inedible foods, as Justin knows, for sure. I have some quick ones. We need Krista Now energy drinks. Like, I just want to sell Krista Now energy drinks with Sarah Michelle Gellar's face on it. Like, done. I don't care if it's Red Bull or Monster, just fucking those packaging. Perfect.
Can we get a mixed drink called the Cock Sugar? And it's just...
Ooh, it's a cock and the Krista Now energy drink?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It would be... You would have the energy drink in it, and you would probably also have some kind of cream in there to make it look like, you know, like you're chugging cock.
In editing, I'm going to take that. I'm going to save that little bit. The way you paused between those words, Ben, that was fantastic. But I love it.
Chugging cock.
Chugging, cock. I think the next one I want to throw in there is something that we get to see The Rock do in this movie. If anybody orders a 6-pack of beer, they have to drink from it while it's not dismantled. Like, you cannot dismantle it. Like, that
was actually so good.
I want all 6 beers to be, like, steadfast in their 6-pack, and you have to open them one at a time and drink them all at the same time, type of thing. I loved that visual, where The Rock is just walking down Hermosa Beach, and he's just, like, palming an entire 6-pack, drinking one beer at a time. And honestly, Ben, that's where I went, wow. The Rock might be a better actor than I thought he was, because that's a movie thing to do right there. We've talked about him fighting. We've talked about him, kick flipping and being with the ladies and getting football players rings and all that stuff. But dude, it takes a true actor to fucking pour beer over themselves for a 2-second scene.
Fair enough. That's some
he
stuff.
does it a few times. He pours beer on himself.
Yeah. I honestly think The Rock had a lot of fun in this movie, I have to say.
Well, I bet. Yeah.
So, did you guys have any other snacks, or can I finish up with mine?
I think you can finish them out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think the last two that I have, in the scene that we get with Dion and Dream, after, they're listening in on The Rock and Seann William Scott driving in the police car, The Rock says the great line that this baby processes energy differently. He releases thermonuclear baby farts, and the prophecy of Jericho Kane says that there will be one final thermonuclear baby fart to cause the apocalypse.
It all hinges on a top-secret experiment. Young couple comes home from the hospital with their newborn baby. A week goes by and the baby still hasn't produced a bowel movement.
Maybe the baby's just constipated.
No. This is a very special baby. This baby processes energy differently. Every time it farts, it creates a small earthquake. The prophecy of Jericho Kane says that there will be one final thermonuclear baby fart, which will then trigger the apocalypse.
And Sean William Scott response is, I haven't had a bowel movement in 6 days. And it cuts to Amy Poehler and Wood Harris going, where does it say in the Bible that people need to shit? Do animals like to shit? And he's like, I think it's not written in the Bible, but it's written in nature. And the whole time they're having this discussion, there is a giant toilet in the background. Yeah. I want every toilet in the Cinemati's restaurant to be that giant. Like, you need to jump onto a toilet to use it in the Cinemati's restaurant. And you're right, Ben. Kenny Chan gets shot and dies in that toilet. Absolutely. So, giant toilets are my first one, and my last one, Starla von Luft, who is a mole inside of U.S. Ident, the one who has the Boxer Santero shrine set up in her cubicle. We get to see her just fistful pumping Cheetos into her face at a certain point.
Oh, yeah.
So here's my thought. If somebody orders cheese puffs or Cheetos, I'm not, if somebody likes the puffy version rather than the crunchy version, that's fine. When they order that, the waiter delivers them in their hand, like as a fistful of Cheetos, and they just deliver them directly to the customer, like put them in the customer's hand. And here's the kicker. Cinemati's restaurant is not liable for any crushed or damaged Cheetos. What do we think?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Do they shove them into the client's mouth?
No, into the client's hand.
No, I think that we should shove some of them into the client's mouth.
Well,
yes.
That's where we're getting in a little weird territory, because I think...
Maximo?
Yeah, Maximo, is this sexual harassment if a waiter shoves Cheetos into another customer's face? Is that sexual harassment? We're a little timid on the sexual harassment stuff these days.
I mean, if they ask for consent, but then shove it in while they're giving consent.
Maximo, is ordering an item off of a menu considered sexual consent?
What if it's in fine print that the waiter's going to shove it into your mouth?
Maximo, can we put fine print that disregards human concept of sexual consent so small that it's unreadable?
We're going to get canceled.
We've been canceled, Justin. Welcome to the party. So, with all that being said, I think I'll throw it over to Justin first. Justin, is there anything you would like to pitch? Where can our audience find you? Where can the cinema audience hear you or play you in chess more? And completely, if they would like to get the cock rocked by Justin, where can they do that?
Get the cock rocked?
Yeah, because nobody rocks the cock like Justin. That's what they say in this movie, right?
I'm anonymous. I'm the one and only salmonberry on chess.com.
I honestly thought Justin was going to hit the hang up button as soon as I said that. So, you got no social media or anything to pitch, anything like that?
Not that I know of.
I will once again put your chess.com username in the show notes for sure. And that leaves me with Ben. Ben, when our audience is not listening to you on Cinemodities, where can they send you memes?
So I actually I have a new Instagram
for
a project I'm working on.
Do I have to go back and edit the fucking other Instagrams now?
No, those other ones are still valid. I am part of a project called Electrum Comics. We are a group of people who are making or in the process of beginning to develop webcomics. The Instagram has no content on it yet, but it will, and that's at Electrum Comics. So that's the Instagram you can find. And then we have electrumcomics@gmail.com, and you can hit us up there with whatever dumb shit you want to send us.
Well, thank you, Ben and Justin, or should I say Shoshana Cox and Sheena G, for being here with me on not only what I think will become the most important episode of Cinemodities, but is the first true installment in the series of The Good, the Bad, and the Richard Kelly. So, the thing that we are left with is how do we end this episode, and nothing's changed, even though we have Justin and Ben here. I am taking a unilateral approach on this stance. We need to play Teen Horniness is Not a Crime in reverse.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious.
Okay, Justin, keep your thoughts to yourself, and thank you guys once again, and we will see you next time, and I think next week when we start a new series, which our audience is fully aware of, the soft start of Monstober. Get ready for Goosebumps, everybody. I know our audience is excited. Woo. Yeah, Goosebumps. I mean, I hope you guys like Goosebumps more than this movie, but at the time of this recording, I like this movie more than Goosebumps, so fuck me.
One sucks and one sucks the weights and women. One sucks and my shepherds times me last night. The ship's shadowing off. The ship's steel. The ship in my club one night. I used to have the lock brushes around the cross. I want to Hey!